We ready to go? Yeah. All right, everybody. This is the Town of Fairfield Conservation Commission acting as the Inland Wetlands Agency for August 7th, 2024. We had a nice July. We were off. Now we're back. Thomas, Richard Boucher, Jay Fain, Peter Hood, Peter Mahoney, Diane Saunders, and Ted Singer is online. We are present. Excuse me. I will appoint Diane and Ted. We do have a quorum, and I'll appoint Diane and Ted this meeting members. Do any commissioners have any questions regarding the approval of the draft meeting minutes for the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting of June 5th, 19th, and the site walk of June 26th? Any comments or corrections? Okay, those minutes to be approved. And now we'll go right into the public hearing. Before I start, I'd like to say, I don't know if everybody hasn't seen the agenda. It's a pretty long agenda. I will attempt to get through it as quickly as I can. In a public hearing setting, everybody has the right to speak. The applicant, those in favor, those opposed. For the public, if you're going to speak, if I might be on a shorter leash for folks if multiple people come in to speak on an application on the same subject. Let's say, for example, 3 or 4 neighbors are talking about flooding in the area. One is enough. We'll get the flavor of what you're talking about, and I'd like to move on to give other applicants or other members of the public to speak about a different issue. So the issue, let's say, as I gave as an example, flooding will be in the record. The commissioners will understand that, and we'll try to move on. If we don't get through it all tonight, we will most likely be a special meeting right after the Conservation Commission meeting later this month for public hearings. So we'll start with number 1, continued WP 240014 Williams and Associates LLC, 430 and 452 Stilson Road, map 76, parcels 345 and 344. Demolish existing dwelling at 430 Stilson Road and construct 19 4-story single-family townhouse buildings grouped in 4 buildings with associated site work within a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ended June 5th. The 5-day time extension, a 63-day time extension was provided by the applicant for continuation to August 7th, 2024. An additional 2-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. However, there are no other regularly scheduled meetings within that time period. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall take a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, the staff recommends continuing the public hearing pending further review of reports from third-party consultants. Tim, did we get that report?
From SLR, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So are you still recommending that the public hearing be continued?
At least through tonight, just to have that.
To review?
Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't intentional, the language
Get
wasn't
the
intentional.
review of the revised plans, correct? SLR hasn't the revised plan?
SLR hasn't issued anything since the original.
Right, and I guess my question is, don't we wanna have them to look at the revised plans to address their comments and make sure they're adequate?
I could if that's what the agency wants. I don't think
Thinking in that
request was made.
Okay, let's have the applicant start.
Chair, it's Bill. Chair, it's Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC. Offices at 10 Sasko Hill Road, in Fairfield here on behalf of the applicant. Well, not there, but virtually there. And sorry, I apologize. If it looks like I'm calling in from a basement, I am. So I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight, but I'm away with my family this week. But yeah, so we've submitted revised plans, and the last meeting, there was a request for the third party review, and I think that was mainly to verify the location of the wetlands line, which they've come out and done. I know Bill's going to go into that. They essentially seem to have found it on the same arc that we have. There's an indent that Bill had. He'll show on a plan. And they said that there wasn't that indent, but it really didn't change too much as far as how deep into the site it went. So it's an application we've been working on a lot. I think we submitted originally in April, and we appreciate staff and third party review for taking a look at it. And we have everybody. Bill's there, Jason's there. So hopefully answer any remaining questions and discuss the details. I know, Chair, at the very onset, you kind of cut to the chase on this one and said, there was a unit that really just needed to be gotten rid of. And we kind of preemptively did that, and we got rid of that unit. Originally, we had actually removed, there was a dumpster location back there as well. We had gotten rid of that before we initially presented to you. And then, again, as you had said, that unit was really the one that, was closest to the wetlands, obviously, and presented an issue. So we went ahead and removed that. So now it's a 19 unit plan in total, 18 new units and 1 existing unit to remain. Really just kind of tackle the heart of the issue there. But in removing that unit, we've been able to do a lot of great things. So I'll turn it over now to Bill and to Jason so they can get into those details and show you how I think we've satisfied the remaining questions. Bill?
Thank you.
Good evening, Bill Kenny, William Kenny Associates here in Fairfield, working on the project as a wetland scientist, soil scientist, and if possible, I'd like to share my screen. I logged on.
Yeah.
Sure. As has been described, we met with you, received comments that you had, and then retained SLR, and they provided comments. So we went through and modified the development based on that. Some of the, as has been discussed, primary item was reducing the northern unit building from 3 units to 2 units. And then we also what that allowed us to do, and that was in this area, there was another unit here. We got rid of that unit, and that allowed us to expand the amount of buffer enhancement work that we were doing. And it also, based on a comment from Mr. Fain, he had, based on his observations, had thought there was an opportunity to actually expand the wetland in this area. So we have shown an expansion of the wetland. There's a fair amount of debris in this area, old fill piles, older piles that were pushed to the back when the property was developed some time ago. And then as well as some other landscape improvements from over the time and whatnot. So we're calling for the removal of that debris, and we're calling for, this would be new wetland area there. And so about 2,400 square feet of new wetland, about 2,400 square feet of planting of native vegetation, trees, shrubs. ground cover. We've described these improvements. We have description of the buffer improvements here, description of the wetland improvements here. Flag. Wetlands here, and at the time that we did that, we were before the town in the past with regard to that, and the town hired soil scientist Tom Petrus with decades of experience, and he went out and reviewed it and confirmed that line. We made some minor modifications at that time, but that was the line that he reviewed with me, and we confirmed that. So with the SLR went out and reviewed it, and they essentially drew a line like that through there, so it added this triangular piece here, it filled in this gap. So we are showing, I went back out there and reviewed it again, and I feel that my line is accurate, but we're showing the line that SLR provided, and you can now see the adjacent area boundary, not the adjacent area, the regulated upland review area boundary. In red, that's based on the wetland mapping that I did with Tom Petrus, and then the blue is the limit of the upland review area based on what SLR did. So, and then we went through the SLR comment memo. There were some items that were related to engineering and other items related to the buffer. I've addressed the items that were the wetland and the buffer and habitat type comments. This is here from Edwards Associates. Go through some of the comments that were related to engineering questions.
The record on Jason Edwards, Principal J. Edwards Associates, Engineers and Surveyors. Online remotely is Larry Edwards, the professional here who designed questions specifically for him. First thing I just want to point out is that the review done by SLR was, they reviewed plans dated January 30th, I believe. The last meeting we were here was in March or April. There have been several revisions after that that had been made. So a lot of the comments that they had were just simply because the plans were not 100% up to date yet. So they did ask for, I can go through these individually, or if you'd like, or I'll touch on a few of them here.
I'd like you could, because in here it gives a big litany of what the SLR comments are, and I think all you said, look at the plan, so I don't know what the changes are in the plan, so you could go through them, that would be very helpful.
I'm sure my screen now. Yeah, actually.
So the first comment, so I'm going to kind of jump back and forth here. I apologize, I only got one screen. Yeah, the first question was a comment related to us was C3, and that's, they requested that we provide the impervious area within the upland review area, as well as the existing impervious, total existing impervious. So we provided those numbers there. It was 24,460 square feet impervious within the upland review area. And the existing impervious was about 5,659 square feet. Comment C4 is related to the version of the plan that they reviewed. We had a printing error in the very first issuance of this plan set, which I went over the last time I was. We subsequently released plans that had everything annotated and was all complete. They didn't review that set. They reviewed the set that was originally submitted. So this is basically relating to things that weren't labeled. They're all labeled by my work kind of short on it. The plan sheets provided appear to show proposed elements such as roadways, curbing, surface parking, or walkways. That's all been added since then. Several sheets of details could be added. We did add more details. We also added, they requested some large diameter trees be on the plans, which we did add to the existing conditions plan. At least I think the ones that they were requesting. And there was some notes on sheet 4.1, which were related to the reference to city of Shelton versus town of Fairfield. We made that correction.
Okay, thanks for that. So
And again, another comment just related to the drafting of the plans, which is hard for me to understand completely what they're asking for, but we tried to make them more legible, in our opinion. Nothing, very engineering related on these. It was mostly the drafting. We did also have from the town engineering department. I forget the gentleman's name, Santiago, reviewed it. He had a few minor comments, which we responded to him. He has not come back to us, but it was all technical stuff. There was some questions on how we were calculating the flows of the 10 versus the 2-year storms, pre and post. We addressed that. The latest set that I sent to him for review, he has not that, but I think I'm confident that it's all items that could be addressed as we move, if we were to move forward through P and Z. It's nothing that would change the footprint of the design related to the engineering inverts and things. We did also add a lighting plan to this set. That was not previously. That was a request. It was an SLR comment, but I don't see it in there.
Yes,
Is it
C6.
It is C6, okay. Oh, it's on the other page. Either way, we do have one here now, and we provide photometrics that the lights are all gonna be, what we're proposing is just to be a sconce type light above the garage on each building. No post lights proposed or anything like that, so everything's facing into it. That's really all I had. If there's any questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. You said the proposed impervious area is 24,000 and the existing is 5,000. Can you show me where that 5,000 would be impervious?
The
5,650.
it's 5,560, I believe. I mean, it would consist, I don't know the exact location without doing some calculations, but you have the existing home.
It's out, this is an upland review area, not on the site.
I thought the question was referenced to the entire site.
Okay, so that's for the entire site, okay.
Yeah, so I don't think there was anything in the actual.
So Jay, am I correct in my calculation? That's an 81% coverage?
81.
81% of the property is going to be impervious.
Oh, these aren't these numbers, but if that's your calculation, I mean, I don't know, what's the total impervious after development?
24,460.
That's within the upland review area.
Within the entire property.
Yeah, I'd have to pull that out for you.
Asking.
Yeah, give me a minute. I'll.
Okay.
If there's any other questions, you can go ahead and I'll come back to it.
On that topic, why are you not doing permeable?
We prefer to do underground retention systems. I don't know that it would be much different. We're still putting all of the runoff into the ground. It's just going through catch basins rather than going through the permeable pavement. We're still meeting the requirements for infiltration, and all the other stormwater guidelines.
So I guess again, that's going along with the SLR comments. The report mentions a water quality basin. There's no water quality basin.
That's, I don't believe that's still in the report.
Okay, I don't have the update.
That's been-
I just have these plans, so
Reports were submitted, so I don't,
I'm going with the way I have it. I don't have a copy of the report. But I guess I'll ask Bill, do you consider the wetland that you're creating would have any impact on water quality?
Impact, it would
Would it improve or?
improve it, yes. So we're going from, instead of right now there's a seep. And this wetland travels down off-site and gets into a very large flat wetland system. In the area of the site and on the site, it's sloping. So in a flat system, you have a much higher functional capacity for cleaning water because the water's not moving through, it sits and has opportunities for settling of pollutants, opportunities for the water to interact with plant life and soils to help clean the water. So the new wetland that we'll be providing is a flat wetland area. We grade that flat. So by expanded wetland area and the fact that it's a flat system will help.
Referring to water quality also in terms of salt,
Yes.
the entire property, in my mind, just gravitates toward a wetland, and I can't be persuaded on the issue of salt. It's all gonna go into the wetland.
So the,
What you're saying is that this new wetland is going to be, for want of a better word, punished in favor of the existing one?
it will, it's certainly an improvement in wetland habitat function for water quality. With regard to the runoff from the property, that first flush, that water quality what's commonly called water quality treatment volume, which is a little bit over, is it a 1.25 inch, 1.3 inch precipitation event. That is being collected and then put through the infiltration system.
As well as a hydrodynamic separator. There's a hydrodynamic separator that the water passed through first, that eliminates, I think, 80% of the suspended solids. That's kind of what we on that, I'll have to check the number of 80%, but
This plan is part of the overall,
yes, they'd have to maintain that as well.
thinking out loud.
There's a maintenance plan included in the plan set as well as in the stormwater report.
Is that gonna be maybe included in the provisions for that? I'm just,
I think our,
Out loud
I would
here.
be fine with that, they need to have a maintenance. plan.
that's typically what happens is we don't have any confidence that maintenance will be ongoing.
But I do have another question for staff.
For staff?
Yeah, just one of the comments that we heard on public hearing or past public hearing was regarding the water quality and water volume. And we did get a very thorough memo from SLR. I just wanted to check with staff if they think that this new set of plans thoroughly addresses the SLR memo, or we should have SLR look at it again.
Let's take a look.
Total impervious area is 1.19. The 1.65 total is 72%.
Sure, that was your question for you. I don't have that in my piles, I don't think. Algebra was okay. All right. What's the date of that document, Jay, that you have, or referring to?
The SLR document? I don't,
I have a copy here.
What's the question?
Response. Some of the responses are apparently in the, so.
I'll have the other bill.
I just wanted to. Mark that copy.
Does Ted have a comment on the left? Diana? Do you and Ted have any comment on the lighting?
What?
The lighting,
You asking me about the lighting?
given that it's coach type lighting and not down lighting, I'm just asking you.
Well, yeah, my question is, I didn't see any of the luminaires being designated as dark skies compliant.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Can hear you.
Oh, wait a minute. How's that?
Yeah, much better.
All right, I didn't, yeah, it helps when I turn off the mute. I didn't see any of the luminaires being identified as being dark skies compliant. And given that you're next to a sensitive ecological area, I would like to recommend that that be the standard for all the luminaires. I also noticed that the color temperature of the lighting was between 3,000 and 4,000 K. And advisories now for smart lighting is between 2,700 and 3,200 K for lighting to reduce the intensity of the light. I'd also like to see any of the external lights for safety purposes be on motion detectors after a certain time of night, so that they're not lit all night long, in keeping with current safe lighting recommendations. So I'm wondering if that could be added to the plan.
Would that be for Attorney Russo or?
We can make those adjustments. The intent is for this to be a dark sky light. I don't know that it's noted on here, but that was.
Okay.
We'll comply with those requests.
Commissioner Luxinger, did you hear that?
It sounds like you're going to be dark skies compliant.
Yes. That was the intent originally, it seems.
We can modify the fixture. if
Okay,
needed.
well, fine by me. I like dark skies compliant, and I also like timers and motion detectors.
Okay,
Yeah, we can comply with that as well.
okay, very good.
Chair, we'd
Thank
be
you.
happy to accept that as a condition of approval.
Thank you, counsel.
Yeah, in response to Commissioner Fain's question, staff did review this, it's just been a while. And I think any concerns could be conditions of approval.
Okay, so Attorney Russo? I don't know if you heard what Director Bishop said, that they reviewed SLR's report. If there were anything that needs to be dealt with, it can be a condition of approval. Would you or your client be okay with that?
Absolutely. We would
Okay,
accept it as a
thank you.
condition of approval. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Commissioners, any other questions, comments for the applicant? Thank you, gentlemen. I'll open the floor up for now for those that are in favor of this application, either here first, come up and speak. In favor of the application, if you're here, you can come up and speak. When you do, tell us your name, your address. Anybody online like to speak in favor of this application? Those that are here, that like to come up and speak in opposition to this application. This application is a continued public hearing. We're dealing with updates from the original public hearing. So if you're coming up to discuss the items we basically discussed and give us new information in opposition, feel free to come up. If it's something that we heard from the last public hearing, it's already part of the record. We also review the record. We've all reviewed the record and we know what's there. So if anybody's here to oppose it with some new information, please come up, give us your name and address. Anybody online that would like to come up, that would like to raise their hand or whatever done online, oppose it with new information? Yep, okay. Motion to close. Oh, no. We'll leave the public hearing open for all of them. So we'll just move on, all right?
No, I think we should close
We
it.
need to close this one and open it. Okay. So motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Commissioner Fain, second. Commissioner Busse, second. Okay, public hearing is closed. All right, we'll do it. Move on to number 2. W 240037, William Kenny and Associates LLC, 220 Kennedy Road, map 2023. Demolition of existing structures, subdivide property into 3 lots and construct 2 new single-family dwellings with a driveway and stormwater detention system on 2 lots within a regulated area. decision may be made if the public hearing is completed, the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ended July 10, 2024. A 28-day time extension was provided by the applicant for continuation to August 7, 2024. A further 37-day time extension may be provided by the applicant for further public hearing continuation to September 13th, 2024 if possible, and a potential continuation date to September 4th of 2024. And the pending receipt of public input, the staff recommends approval with conditions. Okay. Go ahead, unless it's the council or
If needed.
I'm deferring to Mr. Kenny today.
okay, I'm sorry, yeah. Go ahead, Phil.
Yes, good evening, Bill Kenny, wetland scientist, soil scientist, landscape architect, here on behalf of the applicant. We were before you several months ago. This this property is at 220 Pansy Road. It's a very relatively large property with a house site and a small farm in the western end of the site. And so property, that area, when we were before you at the last meeting, we proposed a 2-lot subdivision, actually be 3 lots at the end of the day, 2 residential properties that very similar in size to the other homes on the street. And then a large open space that would pretty much cover the entire wetland area and some upland area. There was a request for there were questions and a request for alternatives reviews. So we did put together some alternatives for you. Calling this, we have a table at the bottom here, and we have a number of alternatives. There's the existing conditions of the site. There's what was proposed when we submitted the initial application. I'm looking at the columns left to right, and then we have an alternative A, alternative B, and alternative C. And the proposed one item that was brought to our attention and asked questions about with the proposed was we had about 7,000 square feet of elimination of farm wetland that we're calling it. We were going to create new wetland to offset that and enhance, remove a bunch of farm activities out of the wetland. And it was asked, particularly with regard to Army Corps permitting, which that they have a threshold of 5,000 square feet that they like to, that is a threshold for permitting. And you like to reduce impacts as much as possible. So we went back and looked at that more closely and came up with alternative A. So you have the same, roughly the same development plan that we had before, but we've reduced the amount of wetland loss below 5,000 square feet. So we went from over 7,000 down to just below 5,000 by making the yards on, particularly on the upper lot or the northern lot a little bit smaller to achieve that. So what that means is we've expanded the improvement to the wetlands, reduced the loss of wetlands, expanded the creation of wetlands. That's alternative A. And then there was another question was, had we considered putting the second house in the area of the existing barn? And that's what we're calling alternative B. And so they're very, A and B are very similar by the numbers, but they are different in layout. You end up with 2 lots, relatively same in size. You have, but if you look at the wetland loss is a little bit less with alternative B, and there is a slight alteration of the water course in alternative B. The water course today, which is heavily channelized, there's stone walls either side of it. It's been altered in the past. To get this alternative B to work, we call for a section here and shifting that. So you have less wetland loss, but we do modify the water course slightly. So if we go back to the table,
So you still do that alternative B inside the house a little bit, I guess it's to the right or down a little bit and not and avoid that water course impact, or is it not worth the water course impact? Personally, I like this alternative B, cause it.
Me too, but that's a water course that's already been, it's not natural.
I know,
you know.
I just was asking the question if, you know, so we can evaluate.
yeah,
This is, for me, this is great because there's always that.
Okay.
Is there a prudent feasible alternative? We're looking at this B here. I like that, and I like it also from I'm putting myself in the shoes of a homeowner.
yeah.
Like, I got a little break between my
Privacy.
neighbor. And I don't have a
Can you
problem.
identify where the water course is and under alternative B, where it would be?
Right.
Two.
So
Yeah, that's there, from the V to the straight line, right?
yeah, so, yeah, the V is today and the straight line would be the.
No, I just wanted to ask the question. Because, you know, as you said, we have to look at alternatives, so I just thought, you know, I actually think it's probably an improvement to straighten it out, because I think that's the way the drainage goes anyways, and it'd probably be more efficient, but. I mean, I think.
So what materials and how would you alter the water course? What materials would you use to alter it? I mean, it's basically an old canal structure like
Right.
that.
So we would, and we've done this in the past, keep the existing water course flowing and build the new one offline in a dry condition. And we would, rather than putting a vertical edge, we would still use stone so that's properly stabilized, but we do more of a natural bank where it steps up and incorporate planting into that. So we would keep generally the same shape and cross area so that you're getting the same flow, convey the same amount of water.
Okay. But it would be open, it wouldn't be.
Oh yeah, be open. It'd be more trapezoidal, vertical.
Do some planting and some energy dissipator stones and things like that.
Yeah, and we would, like, you need stone just at the lower half of the bank, and then the upper half you could plant. So we could, one thing we could do is we could have it come through here. And I don't have an issue with it. Okay.
Yes.
I know you guys like alternative B, but what I was thinking about this is it sort of breaks up the wetland, whereas alternative A is all in, one.
Fragmentation.
Yeah, but.
I mean, that's really a question for
The
you.
way I see this is that all wetland along Kenzie Drive has been altered historically, and that's not the prime wetlands. The prime wetlands, I think they were really focusing on it. It's the area of the red maple swamp to the rear. I think that this, personally, I think this makes all the sense in the world. These are our alternatives analysis. I think it's a much easier road for us to go down. It doesn't set a precedent. The wetland impact can be minimized, and we certainly have plenty of room for improvement here, and then to really getting the open space is gonna.
Applicant is pleased to do one or.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Fine, great example of an alternative. Any further questions, Commissioners?
I have a question for you. So the plans, it was hard to read, but I think you said each of those lots is a 1/4 acre.
Been a while since I looked at that statistic. We made them meet the minimum, and they do
Okay.
extend. I will tell you that.
Well, that was my question, because if they're a 1/4 acre, they're actually over the minimum. But if you're saying it's the minimum, which is 9375 square feet. And obviously that's what you have to do, but if it's actually a 1/4 acre. My question is, can the size of the lots be reduced to the minimum, so you'd have even less of an impact on the wetland.
So with regard to the wetland impact measurement here, but with this area and based on a suggested condition of approval from the staff is that any area where the proposed lot extends into the wetland, that it would be an easement area, so that area becomes protected. And that you still essentially have a smaller lot. So does that make sense that
Well, but your lot isn't smaller, but part of it is protected, is what you're saying.
right, and it's beyond the protection.
Why can't you make it smaller? What difference does it really make?
It has, with some of the floor area for your flexibility with building the house. And I don't have the numbers in front of me today, but it gives you more opportunity for a larger structure. In the end, the house is controlled by the side yard setbacks and the front yard setback, and so it's based on that alone, it's not gonna be it's gonna be in keeping with the neighborhood.
That's a zoning thing, if we're here for wetland impacts.
Well, the point I'm making is that if they built to the minimum lot size, they could reduce the wetland impact by about 3,000 square feet. I think that's significant.
Although, if I may, two things. One, we'd like to have a little larger lot size. I don't think these lots are substantially larger than the 9,375, but they have a little and that provides you, from a zoning perspective, not to dip into zoning, but it gives you some flexibility so you don't run into problems post-construction where people are, 0.5% over coverage or affecting a setback. The second thing though, Commissioner, is, as Bill pointed out, the lots, as you see in B here, which seems to be where we're focusing on, they will have an easement that will substantially protect additional areas of wetlands so that the difference is not that significant as far as wetlands protection and non-disturbance. Because these lots, as shown here in alternative B, Bill, they will be subject to conservation easements, right? And yes.
We unfortunately, we haven't gotten these drawings didn't get disseminated to us, so this is kind of what we're looking at out of, new tonight. I'm assuming that there's gonna be, you don't have development envelopes or anything around these lots yet, right?
No.
And you don't have stormwater.
What we do have is, from our engineer, a letter stating that he's gonna apply the same design. The design won't change, it'll just change in location. The Coltech system,
Can you do it, do you need to do the code? Can you do some type of a rain garden or PBS or something like that on these lots? You're gonna have a high groundwater table anyways. So it's a large area. I don't know if this, stormwater quantity is gonna make that much of a difference or not. Do you look at that yet?
We did have our engineer review, send to the engineering department this revision and basically say, how we would not modify the drainage, but how we.
Who's the engineer?
Steve Tree.
So he's a big LID guy. Can we get some LID stuff here?
The challenge here is what we would propose is that the mitigation we're proposing is the preservation of.
Yeah, I get it. I just, it would be nice to have the whole.
There's so little left for the.
Yeah, it would be nice to get the total package. I don't know, integrate that into the whole design.
10 to 2 may make it very difficult.
Do a combination with some code.
We could do that.
Yeah, I think it's just, something that direction that we're, I think we're all working together here. And that this seems to be anyways, it's the right direction. This is something that the agency, appreciates in terms of the open space part, so.
Narrow, like sort of more of a linear feature.
Yeah, you can work it out, but you get the idea.
I still think it's better than what's there now,
Yeah,
right? Because
absolutely.
it's really a site that is really almost toxic, if you will.
We referenced the staff report that Mr. Bishop did on May 30th, which I think makes that point very, very well. A big improvement,
Yeah.
whether it's alternative A or alternative B.
Right.
Well, were these alternatives provoked by the commission? I mean,
Yeah, we asked for it. It was, I think.
I mean, I get that, it's just, I mean, I'm a little bit following what Diane is saying. I personally prefer the proposed. I just think it's off to the side. I know the houses don't look like they're gonna have a lot of freedom and space to live. I don't care. I mean, and I see the alternatives. We're coming back in a couple of years asking for pools. You know,
Not with
that's kind of,
conservation.
well, I'm just saying that's gonna be a change in the future. They're gonna wanna build a pool. I don't know. I'm not with the rest of you. I think this pushed off to the side. I just prefer the original. Expressing it.
Okay.
And our position is, not to make it easier for you, but we're happy either way.
Yeah, no,
I just wanna build a couple of nice houses and create a nice wetlands area in a property now that is really having no positive environmental impact.
That's well said, so.
Yeah, I personally see that in the
Yeah.
original proposal more than I do in these. That's all I'm saying.
Any further questions, comments, commissioners? No?
Questions, where do
Lutzinger?
we need to get more information before we close the public hearing?
I'm not closing it yet. You mean from the applicant?
Yeah, do we want to see these?
So we actually, a week ago, submitted all this digitally, and we have paper copies today of all the drawings. So
Yeah, I looked at, I just saw it this morning on the website, but I didn't really have a chance to take a really hard look at it. Peter, and with all due respect, I really, considering our regulations and the mandates to avoid impacts, the B really seems to fit our regulations. And, going forward, I feel more comfortable.
And I don't think this is anything that we can mandate, but I would ask again that since you're next to a sensitive area, that you're essentially protecting as a wetland. I'd love to see the lighting plans for the two dwellings to be dark skies compliant and not lighting up their backyards to offset a lot of the work you've done in trying to rebuild the wetland. But I don't think we can mandate that, but it certainly is an ask on my part.
We're agreeable to that, Commissioner.
That's great. Happy to hear it. All right,
Okay, great.
thank you. Anything further? Okay, thank you, sir. Again, this one has been continued. However, there were new plans, so if anybody is here from the public, who's a person that'd like to come up and in support of this application, please come up, give your name and address. If you're here, like to come up, support, name and address. Anybody online that would like to say anything in support of this application, raise your hand. Okay, anybody here in opposition to this application? Anybody here like to discuss or say something in opposition to this application, please come up. Yes, please come up. Please give us your name and address.
Good evening, my name's Elizabeth Farina, 92 Pansy Road. There was a mention of a stone ditch that ran from east to west. Where is that on the property?
Stone ditch.
Yep. I was watching this on TV last night, actually. I heard it better on TV than I did here in this location.
So this image is the western end of the property.
Right.
Pansy Road, and then there's a ditch that starts in the central portion of the wetland. It's the
Up
one,
towards Brookside driveway more so than going towards Blackrock Turnpike. But I just wanted to know where that ditch was.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, so that's good. Anybody else would like to come up on this application? Anybody online? on this application? Okay, motion to close the public hearing. Okay. Commissioner Fain, seconds, Commissioner Boucher. Okay, public hearing is closed. Moving, yes. Council, anything further?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good. Moving on to number 3. So it's WP 240059 Norwood 120 Wakeman Lane, map 246 parcel 5C. This particular one, we got a late today, a request for continuance, so they're asking for continuance. They're within the time frame to do so. I do know that this has been property that has had issues, we've had issues with, and it's actually well. Commissioner Fain, you might have say something.
Yeah, I'm gonna object to to granting the extension of time. It's been going on for almost 3 years. This applicant has been before this agency on several occasions, disrespected the agency. They would be back before us in July or June, and they promised cooperation and they would be very forthcoming, and since then they've fired counsel, and I believe they fired their environmental consultant. It's just kicking the can down the road. I think we have enough information based on the plans that have been provided to make it a conditional approval or an order for them to go ahead and restore the property. We're under duress now. Work really should be done before this fall. Otherwise, it's gonna be another year before we get into the proper planting season to do this. And I see no legitimate reason why we should extend this application any further and give this violator more time to enjoy the property the way they violated.
Jay, what I would say in response to that is today it feels like deja vu. We went through a year, I don't even know at this point, and every month we would come up to the date and we'd get no response, no information. We can't do it. This is just same old. But I think you covered the issue.
I hear, well, yeah, commissioners, I do appreciate your comments and hear what you're saying. This is simply the applicant's way of moving forward. They have every right to move it this way if they want to. There are consequences to go with it, however, because we do have the court case that's ongoing now. As of today on the court docket, trial is first week of September. So I'm not as concerned. They'll have to deal with that as well. And that's really who we are. So if we were even to hypothetically take it up, deny it, I can file an application again. the following week.
I feel like that we wouldn't deny it, that we would approve it with conditions as recommended in our staff report, and that would get them on the path. Get an order in front of them, set a deadline for the restoration to occur, and get this off our agenda once and for all and get moving on this.
I view it as she may be more belligerent than that. Even if we were to approve it, she wouldn't do it. I think the court would be a better venue, which it's at right now, to make her do something. Whether she has this council or other council, some other, whoever it might be. I'm gonna continue this, have them come in front of us, see what they say at the next meeting. And what happens, but I'm gonna grant this first continue. Okay?
Can I add something?
Yes.
I wouldn't have wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be voting tonight to approve the application, so I think you're a pretty decent path.
Is she any fines going on right now or no?
They're being requested in the court. There was a
Right,
motion.
but as of right now, she's not receiving, there's no fine for her.
No, the judge hasn't done anything. There's a motion for contempt that was filed by our
Still,
council.
yeah.
And that will ask for fine. So it'll be
Right.
up to a judge to rule on that motion. And then also see what happens with the trial date. That's gonna be in early September.
I'm just saying that Mr. Sit on the fence here agrees to vote.
Consultant for the applicant is online if the agency has any. from Land Tech.
Yeah, Mr. Romano, you sent that letter earlier today?
I did.
Okay. So
Can I-
nothing,
Can I have 5 minutes?
yeah, sure.
Thank you. Look, Pete Romano, I'm the principal with Land Tech, your site civil environmental surveying company out of Westport. We do a bunch of work in Fairfield. We're involved with the Metro Center, we're involved with 81 Black Rock Turnpike, we're doing the Porsche dealership. And I took this project on as a favor to a friend to maybe help collaborate with Bill Kenny. And I explained to her that she had great consultants already on the project, you know, Rennis and Mead. You had Bill Kenny and I spoke, and he basically said, Pete, if you can help, have at it. I can appreciate, I got a little bit of the history of it, you know, Brian Carey works for us now. And he's explained what's going on, he's got some history on, knowledge about this piece of property. I can understand completely if you don't wanna continue the project at all. I would only ask you this. Give us a shot for the next 30 days to come up with something that I think, like I say a lot of times in front of commissions, we can sit in front of the commission and set all these conditions, right? And the issue is gonna be to make the person execute them. So I feel strongly that we can not only come up with a plan that maybe is amenable to everybody, but also we can offer some conditions. You know, our firm, a lot of times are the third party reviewer for projects, or in some instances up in the northwest portion of Connecticut, we're the environmental consultants to the towns. So, you know, we do what Tim does, basically. So I can appreciate your frustration with this. I sort of make a joke in the office that we're the Henry Kissinger of this piece of property. If you can find your way to allow us 30 days, Tim and I and Brian got a phone call, we came up with some suggestion things. I think we can make this thing work. The only thing I would tell you is, or one of the things I would encourage you to take a look at, I went out there a couple times. If you have any fear of what's going on out there, the place is stabilized, right? Yeah, it doesn't look as ominous as it looks like when somebody goes in and cuts down 4 trees right now. But I know that's not the issue, and I'm not suggesting to let it stay the way it is. All I'm saying is there's time, like nothing, there's no impact from not acting right away. Because if you went out there and you didn't know that.
Toronto, I appreciate the comments. We got the letter. We're gonna have a really long night.
Okay, no.
I continued it for 30 days. It'll be on there. We'll see what happens, okay?
I totally, thank you very much. You got
Thank you.
it. Thanks, guys and girls. Bye.
Right, moving on to number 4, WP 24-0022, Grant 975 Mill Hill Road, map 228, parcel 97, installation of drainage well within the area. Decision may be made if public hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends September 11, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. So further public hearing continuations to November 15th, 2024 are possible. And a potential continuation date to September 4th, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, staff recommend, approval with conditions. Council.
Good evening, Robert Grant, I represent Judy Wannett, who is here. Judy owns 975 Mill Hill Road. And we are here trying to alleviate a drainage problem that exists between the neighbor up and neighbor 875 Mill Hill Road, the Hudsons, and the water that drains across our back property. And we're trying to replicate the drainage that was in place according to the 2016 aerial mapping. And we've produced, we've worked with the staff, worked with the neighbor, Mrs. Hudson. I like to think that anybody here who's a fan of baseball, I like to think of Mrs. Wannett as being the second baseman on the double play. She's in between the shortstop, the Hudsons, and the downland neighbors, the first baseman. We don't want any problems with anybody, and particularly with you. And we've tried to produce a plan that will alleviate the problems, and we're willing to, we've read the staff's report. Staff's report is reasonable and understandable, and we agree. We just want to solve the problem.
Okay. So, Commissioners, any comments, questions? No? Okay, going once, going twice. Very good, thank you, sir. Oh. You're satisfied, I'm satisfied. Yeah, there's no question, so you're all good.
Thank you very much.
Anybody here that's in person that wants to speak in support of this application, please come up, give us your information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the agency. For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm an attorney in Fairfield, and I'm here tonight representing Mr. and Mrs. Hudson, who reside at 875 Mill Hill Road, immediately adjacent to Mrs. Wannett. First of all, I want to thank Mrs. Wannett, and I want to thank Attorney Grant, and I want to thank your staff for working with us. I think this is a great example of a collaborative effort by two property owners to address an ongoing problem relative to drainage with respect that impacts to both of their properties. What is proposed and what staff, with appropriate conditions, has recommended approval of is a very shallow drainage swale to alleviate these drainage issues that involve both our property at 875 and Mrs. Wannett's property at 975 Mill Hill Road. As I said, it has been a collaborative effort in addition to the time of your staff with regard to this. Ms. Wannett retained Mike Shevlin of Shevlin Engineering / the Huntington Company. And we retained Craig Flaherty of Redness and Mead. And it was through their efforts that we came up with a discrete plan to address this particular issue that will have no adverse impacts in terms of any other properties. And in fact, as I will briefly elaborate, will have some positive environmental impacts. It does allow us to address the significant ponding and drainage issues that have negatively impacted both properties for a substantial period of time. And as pointed out by the staff in their report, it will address these problems and enhance drainage on both properties, consistent with the current natural direction of the water flow. There'll be no change in that. I mentioned environmental enhancements and benefits. They arise from your staff recommendation, the no-mow zone, which Attorney Grant has indicated he's comfortable with these proposed conditions. Seeding with native wet meadow vegetation, planting of native wetland shrubs along the area of the swale, elimination of a portion of the existing manicured lawn area, which is, by the way, consistent with what you did when you approved the Hudson application for their pool some months ago. And it will allow, as Tim points out, enhancement of wetland habitat in that regard, and also mitigate surface water flow and reduce water velocity. So all those are good things. We appreciate the support of the staff and of hopefully this commission. It's a good example of two neighbors ultimately coming together to resolve a problem, but doing it discreetly and in an environmentally sensitive manner, so that no impacts relative to any change in current flows or impacts on off-site properties will occur. So thank you, and I thank again Mrs. Wannett and Attorney Grant.
Thank you, counsel. Anybody else that's here in person that'd like to speak in support of this application? In support of this application? Anybody online that'd like to raise their hand and speak in support of this application? All right, anybody here in person that'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Please come up, give us your name and address. Anybody here? Okay.
For the record, my name is Ann Farrington. I reside at 100 Road in Southport. and I am here tonight as an abutting property to 975 Mill Hill Road. Well, I'm thrilled this application is in front of you after all the years of human intervention in a protected space. It is my position that it's incomplete. It has been established over the past years through neighbor and applications that the wetland is part of an interconnected watercourse which is tributary to the pond on my property. Yet we are here tonight with no supporting engineering plans other than what I just heard from, I didn't see anything online, no impact assessments and no alternatives. One would think the alternative would be restoration of an area that should not be treated as a suburban lawn. Instead, restore it to allow the natural flow through the habitat that should exist in this setting. A gravel swale is an improvement to the current mowing and weed whacking that takes place weekly on both 875 and 975 Mill Hill directly in the wetlands and the water courses that have now been identified on both properties. But why not have it be a vegetated area that's left to do its own work? And then, of course, this application says it's in collaboration with 875 Mill Hill Road, which is currently on appeal in Superior Court with the first appearance being tomorrow. This application also indicates the plan was drawn up by an 875 expert, Redness and Mead, whose engineering is being questioned as part of that appeal. As much as I would like to say anything is better than what exists today, this is your chance to make and enforce the right changes that will hopefully be a new practice for this property and any homeowner who's going to own it going forward. It is the intention of all involved to come across as doing the right thing for the environment in which they live. This is nothing other than a wolf in sheep's clothing. The gain is a dry yard. The pond at 100 Waterville is a healthy place. Please keep it that way. I'm going to ask Sarah to put some photos. And I have 6 children, so I had no time to prepare prior to like yesterday. This is Mrs. Wynett. This is my loomy area that goes into the pond. This is her cutting it back. This is a well-groomed yard that they mow week after week, even though we've identified this as an interconnected waterway. It's mowed over every week and it's weed whacked down. So I'm glad everybody wants to say they're doing the right thing for the environment. I beg to differ. Excuse me.
Those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to come up?
Yes, I would.
Please, you take
Greg
your
Schultz.
address.
100 Waterville Road. I do think, just very quick comments, as Barrington said, this case for 875 is in front of Superior Court as of tomorrow. I do find it particularly odd that we have a no-mow zone. We notified the town that it's being mowed and sent us a note saying because it is in court, nothing will be done about the no-mow zone until the court case is resolved. And yet now we are considering coming in and digging back out the same areas that are in contested court on 875 and 975. And why this commission would make a decision tonight on such an issue would need some explanation to me. If anyone wants to do that.
Are those your comments?
Yes.
Okay. No explanation.
My understanding of a public hearing is it's not interactive.
Yeah, it's not, so that's okay. But if that's what, those are your comments, we'll take it into consideration if we make a decision tonight. Okay. Anybody here, anybody else here in person that'd like to come up and speak in opposition to this application? Anybody online that'd like to raise their hand and speak in opposition to this application? Okay. Close the closing. Okay. So Commissioner Fain has, and what else? Aaron put. is seconding that. All right, move on to number 5. WP 24-0057, Greengross PT, 290 and 420, Sturgis Highway, map 247, parcels 21, 22, and 22A. Repair and maintenance of existing dam within a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed. Or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends on September 11, 2024. 5-day time extension may be provided by the applicant for the public hearing continuation to November 2024. The potential continuation date is September 4th, 2024. The hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 5 days. Pending receipt of public input, staff recommends approval with conditions. Okay, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the agency, staff. My name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport with the law offices of Green and Gross, and it's my pleasure to appear before you this evening on this application regarding the Banks Pond Dam, and on behalf of the property owners at 250, 290, and 420 Sturgis Highway. And in fact, all of the property owners are here this evening. Polly and John Tucker are here from 250 Sturgis Highway. Mary Jane and Jim Berrien are here from 290 Sturgis Highway. And Chris Franz and Tina Weymouth are here from 420 Sturgis Highway. And also with me is Al Shepard of Nowakowski, Shaw and Kane and Shelton, and Bill Kenny, who I know you're familiar with, William Kenny Associates. So we are here with respect to the proposed maintenance and repair of the Banks Pond Dam. You obviously have a lot of backup materials, and I had prepared sort of a more elaborate introduction, but Chris had drafted a letter to the commission that we were going to submit, and I thought that his letter provides a far better summary of how and why we're here than I could. So I've asked Chris to come forward and submit the letter electronically today. I asked him to read it into the record. I do, however, have copies for the commission if that would be of assistance to you.
Yes, please.
And I've also emailed a copy which to the commission this evening. So
if you've emailed it, then we would have it. It'll become part of the record.
Yeah, we just got it tonight.
So, Chris, if you could go ahead, I think, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Franz, and I wrote this letter. The title of the letter is Living on Banks Pond in Fairfield, Connecticut. On October 1st, 1985, my wife Tina, our 3-year-old son, and I moved into our home on Banks Pond at 420 Sturgis Highway. We were drawn to this home because of its location on a pond with an abundance of wildlife and year-round natural beauty. In fact, the entire neighborhood has enjoyed Banks Pond for bird watching, catch and release fishing, nature photography, landscape painting, and the best pond ice skating in town, according to the Westport News. Banks Pond and its shores have been home to Canada geese, mallard and wood ducks, great blue herons, egrets, night herons, snapping turtles, painted turtles, muskrats, otter, deer, fox, groundhogs, squirrels, chipmunks, raccoon, and mink. I might have forgotten a few, but swimming in the pond were sunfish, bass, and brook trout, as well as minnows and eel. Fed by Sasko Brook, Banks Pond has been on the map since the 1700s. Created by a dam at the southeast end, the pond provided water for a dairy farm of 18 cows with an ice house and a grist mill. Along with our neighbors, John and Polly Tucker, Jim and Mary Jane Berrien, we share ownership and responsibility for the pond and the dam. In 1986, in an effort to save the pond, which was rapidly filling up with silt and debris from new developments upstream, with the Tuckers, we hired Pete Romano, a civil engineer at Land Tech in Westport, to survey the pond and make a recommendation. He determined that the best thing for the life of the pond would be to dredge it to its original depth of 9 feet. John Sullivan, then the first selectman of Fairfield, he liked the proposal, but Tom Stanky, then on the Conservation Commission, said no. So the pond continued to fill up with silt and other debris. An island of quicksand, literally quicksand, has formed on the eastern side, which threatens to cut off the rest of the pond's water supply. Then, on September 1st and 2nd, 2021, Hurricane Ida hit much of New England as an extratropical cyclone, causing catastrophic river and flash flooding. This was when part of Banks Pond Dam broke away, causing the pond to empty out. Since the dam broke, the pond has nearly dried up. Since September 6, 2021, we have been seeking permission not to replace the dam, but simply to repair it. We have engaged an environmental engineer, Alan Shepard, to make sure that the work will be done properly and effectively. He has made drawings and a proposal. We went to the town of Fairfield, who said we needed permission from DEEP. So we met with DEEP both by Zoom and in person multiple times. Finally, DEEP said that our dam had been misclassified, that in fact it was a AA, correct? And that we now needed permission from the town. So here we are. This has been going on for almost 3 years. During these 3 years, our home at 420 Sturgis Highway has begun to sink. It's normal for older homes to settle, but according to Connecticut Basement Systems, who also do foundation work, their man who examined our foundation believes that since the dam broke and the pond emptied out, the water table has lowered to the point that it is accelerating the sinking of our home. This was not a problem for us before the dam broke. We are taking measures to prevent further damage on September 30th, when supporting jacks will be installed under our home at considerable expense. Let me also say to whoever said we have showed no interest in installing a fish ladder or providing a fishway around the dam, that this is simply not true. We will do whatever we need to do to preserve and maintain Banks Pond and the wonderful fish and wildlife who live here. Respectfully, Chris and Tina France, John and Polly Tucker, and Jim and Mary Jane Berrien. Thank you.
So as you can gather, it's been a long journey over the past 3 years. Frankly, I've got to say that clients contacted me in this September, and there were some in the community saying, just get a contractor, fill in the hole, the dam, fix it, drop some rocks in there. And they were all about following the process, but the process has taken us on an incredibly long journey. So here we are, and we're here before you this evening, and what we are, and as Chris had said, we did spend a lot of time in the state process. The state did reclassify the dam, recognizing that it is relatively shallow. There's a long run out location. And I've got to tell you, my clients have been involved in preserving the wetlands and preserving the water course. And in fact, some of you may remember, and I know Attorney Fallon remembers, that Olaf Nelson had proposed a large subdivision at 491 Hulse Farm Road that we all worked through, and that didn't end up happening. So this large meadow has been preserved, and I think that was a large motivation for DEEP, because there is this large area, so the potential dangers from dam failure were recognized to be of a different classification. The other thing we really have to talk about is, well, actually Chris covered that too, and very eloquently, in terms of the wildlife habitat that right now is being prevented from thriving by virtue of the condition of the dam. So what we have done, and we met at the site with wetland staff, and what we are proposing to do is essentially a maintenance and repair project. And Alan can tell you a little bit more detail on sort of the specifics, but the plan generally is to access the property, obviously to create minimum disturbance. And I don't know how many of you were able to, so you had, I saw the site walk note.
Just for, just disclosure, we jumped the fence, just to let you know.
I didn't, I followed.
I have advice from council. I was told I could jump the fence.
That's why the photographs on the sidewalk, go to please, if you saw this.
Video of people walking on the property, excuse us, we just wanted to get back there.
Telling me the Olympics has nothing on this committee.
That's fair. Okay.
Your fence. But in fairness, we saw it, and when you're talking about the so, we documented that.
Yeah,
Even if everybody
saw
didn't physically
Yeah,
stand
we
on
saw
it.
it, yeah.
Okay,
It's in the thought,
all
so.
right, and you can see the historic nature of the property. You can see that the Berrien's house had an ice house basically behind it. And I mean, it's evident when you stand there, sort of the historical character of the whole location. So Alan, if you could give a general description.
So, good board, Alan Shepard, professional engineer, location 415 Howe Avenue, Shelton, Connecticut. Been practicing in the area for years. So, what we have is, you know, a rubble earthen dam, like we had throughout Connecticut. We had a lot of these, right? Obviously, there's some passage of time and everything, but this is a classic one from a engineer's point of view. It really was ahead of its time. It had the raceway, it was good for ice was a big product, and then they switched over the farmers who had that. I would like to look into it a little bit farther, because they did the pasteurization, when ice came out of fashion. So the neat thing about the dam, it's a low-lying dam, it's not very high, 5 feet high. It has an earthen band, earthen rubble part. So I'd like to keep the same kind of characteristics as the dam with gabbing and blocks. But with a liner, we have newer products nowadays. Instead of hay and mud, we can use liners, right? I like to put that in the front, and also cap the top of the dam with concrete to reinforce that. The neat thing about the dam, as we'll get into, it has a bypass already. So we checked the elevations of the bypass that is in back of Francis' house. And we submitted a map for you guys just recently. I have copies here if you want to take a look.
Bypass, you mean taking the pond offline?
No, the pond stays online. It just bypasses around it during high flow.
There's a channel.
There's a channel already there. So I'm sure they use that, the elevations. And, so the elevations weren't by accident. We went out there and checked them. So the swale that goes in back of Fran's house is a foot lower than the top of the rail. And you can see on the plan, we actually field shot these elevations. So, we have the existing dam, this little swale that goes off here, and then down into the swale. It's kind of has debris because of the storms and everything. So it's clogged up. To the point where it's like 3 inches above the rear of the dam. We could open that up with minor amount. So that elevation was set there, I think, for a purpose, lead off bypass. So there's minimal work that has to be done to have a bypass around the pond. All we would have to do, it's already there. We'd have to maybe clean it up a little bit, control the flow, more regulate the flow with a weir. Could be low tech kind of weir thing. And now the fish have somewhere to go to. So we need a deep water resting spot. 5 feet, we only got about 5 feet, that's okay. But I'm not a fish expert, but from what I'm reading, they like to go deeper. But they have to go somewhere to have a refuge. And the river's not flowing strong. So we can have the bypass, still have the pond there. I think everybody wins with that kind of scenario. So.
Yeah, it was confusing to me that you went, now that you said you went to deep for 3 years, but then they sent it down to us, and then they sent a letter almost, in a sense, almost opposing it, but at the end saying, but if you approve it, just do something with the fish ladder or something like, what is it that you want? You know, so it wasn't clear to me, but now that this is here.
Got everybody out there to take a look at it. Yeah. Once they walk the property, they're like, oh, this isn't 20 feet high. Our record says 20 feet high. You know, all records don't show this, you know, they don't show the.
Council, does this then clarify it for future purposes, like on the record to, if anything were to happen in the future, so it's reclassified as all that?
Yeah, that letter is in the record.
Yeah.
2 questions that Deep raised. One, they said he needed diversion permit, which is not a trivial matter. So where do we stand with that?
Well, so.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
You needed a water diversion permit from Deep before you can reconstruct the dam.
So I thought that I have 2 responses. First one is that one of the proposed conditions of approval is satisfying any state requirement as, you know, condition of approval.
I mean, that's all we can do.
Yeah.
And can't require it.
Yeah, and also it's not, there's 3 points. One, it's not directly in the jurisdiction of, in other words, this commission is not a checkpoint.
Right, I acknowledge that, but you know, it's obviously we can give you a permit if you can't build it.
It's a great question, but the other thing that I wanted to address is that one of the exceptions for diversion permits, and I'm gonna explore that with the state, is first of all, maintenance and repairs are, I think the statute refers specifically to maintenance and also refers to emergency repairs. And I think that with the settling of the home at 420, right now, there's a serious settling issue in the area, but also we believe that this is basically maintenance and repair.
So the maintenance, repair, and settling of the home, does that somehow make it a sort of emergency thing? Can you get access faster if you do something like that?
Well, that's our hope.
Okay.
So the second question that goes along with that is they obviously said that you need a diversion permit, and as part of that, you need to sign off from fisheries. So you've run this by fisheries yet?
We did have the deep fish people out there. So, and they did say may need a diversion fee.
I know, but I just want to know if this bypass satisfies what they want in terms
Bypass is already there, so I would hope we'll get them down there and say, hey, we already got it there. We're not asking for it. Or the people, we had them out there. That was part of the round robin that we had with the deep. And they were like, this is already there. It works. It's a 1% slope. They said, this is doable. So that's why they let us back down to the local, because it's within reach. You know, if it was without reach and we had to have a big fish ladder and everything, then maybe it's been a different case. But we walked it with them and they were fine.
But to be clear, we don't have those.
No.
Well, I don't think I don't think that the fisheries, people said you need a permit from them, they needed to have that satisfied as far as deep. And we had some letters from also other interested individuals regarding the White Passage. So I guess the cut short, are you committed to do something that's substantial to address that issue of the fish passage?
We are committed to working with the state and determining whether, first of all, whether diversion permit is needed or not. And my clients are not, they are committed to the notion of creating a fish passage, but there's a lot to that, first of all, and secondly, there's possibly other parties who may provide grants, so there's a lot.
Yeah, I know, I understand that, but
So we're all for it.
we're all for it. Okay, that's what I need.
Yeah, this is the big answer.
But it is a timing thing. We have some emergency repairs to look at. They're for it, but that we're hoping we can do the repairs to the dam, because we need the dam anyway for the fish pipe.
But as you're hearing, as a preliminary matter, we are starting to discover that creating a robust fish passage is not a heavy lift. Or what I'm hearing from Alan.
I mean, that's, I think, the one, thing that we're looking to hear is that.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, that's. Any further questions, commissioners?
I have a question. Have you given any consideration to just removing the dam?
That's always one of the thoughts. As we stated, it's a historic dam. We do think it's changing the water table out there. The Francis property, from what he described to me, does sound like it was on filled land, so by changing the water table, that could cause some problems with the houses. But, right. The other thing is, if we really do want to fish, to rehabitat the fish, they need that pond. So they need that as a resting spot. So you need some deep water spots to rest to. I looked at the creek or brook, whatever you want to call it, and it looks like that's the one in the area that's there that can be done. I didn't see any other resting spots for the fish. So in drought conditions and stuff like that, you kind of just doing away makes a non-starter for the fish may go up there, but they may die in the river. By having the pond at that location, I think is important for all the other habitats.
Yeah, the other thing, I have to say this just because I think this dam and this pond have been there for 300 years. A mile downstream, Bulkley Dam was there for 300 years. The thing that I find interesting and that we have to think about balancing is all of the wildlife and all the habitat that the pond created. And I've spoken with quite a few people, and the notion that fish will be up there anytime soon is one that I have to question. I understand the objective, I understand the purpose, and we support it. But it could be 5 years, 10 years, or I'm told sometimes 25 years or longer before fish actually get that far north in within that watershed, within that water course. So it's kind of, and I understand we have to create those opportunities and we support that. But my clients have said, in some of these, especially when the weather was hot, that like turtles, everything else, frogs are just nowhere to be seen that were historically there, amphibious and fish.
Okay, thank you.
We seldom have a dam as a topic.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any further questions? No? All right,
Can I ask a quick question?
yeah.
So the volume that you're gonna be retaining isn't changing from what it has been historically?
Keep the same elevation.
I just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
I'll comment just for fun. I'm a person that likes drawings where I go. The plans were really good with the photographs and the numbers. If that kind of stuff was done all the time, that was really nicely done.
It was very.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I'm happy to sort of address the standards in your regulations in 10.2 just quickly, just so that the record is complete. But there is under 10.2, your criteria for decision set forth, and I know for them many times and you're familiar with them, but certainly as the staff report reflects, there are some short-term temporary disturbances created by virtue of construction activities. But I think in the grand scheme of things, in balancing them with the benefits of the project, I hope that the commission would recognize that they're relatively minor and temporary. In terms of feasible and prudent alternatives, certainly the discussion of not having a dam, as you've raised, is an alternative, but we feel that on balance, it's not a prudent alternative, but I think it's an important and valid question. The relationship between short-term and long-term impacts, I think, is evident. And there is no irreversible or irretrievable loss of wetlands in this instance. So I think that the project really meets all of the standards. There is, of course, degree of injury and that sort of thing. And once again, I don't think there's any long-term safety, health, and the reasonable use of the property. And again, the impacts are as we described. So if there are no further questions, we'll thank the commission.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll open it up now to anybody who's here in the public that would like to come up in support of this application. Not on the applicant. We know you're supported. Anybody online that'd like to come up and support? Anybody here in the public that'd like to come up in opposition to this application? Anybody online that'd like to come up in opposition to this application? Nope. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Don't need anything else, so we can close this public hearing.
I think the only thing is I should have said is we appreciate the effort of staff for holding the line with the proposed conditions of approval. Many of the issues that were raised by the commission, again, regarding the state issues.
Okay, so just to make it clear that your clients would be okay with the proposed conditions of approval. Okay, all right, so that's clear for the record. Thank you. Motion to close, Commissioner Boucher's motion.
Make a motion to close.
And Commissioner O'Mahony, second. Public hearings closed on that one. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Number 6, WP -24-0051. William Kenny and Associates LLC 1118 Cross Highway, the Patterson Club, map 220, parcel 23. Monitoring, culvert replacement, cart path modifications, plantings and associated site work in a regulated area. And the decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing can be continued. The original 35-day public hearing time period, the hearing ends on September 11, 2024. 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicants for the public hearing condition continuations to 2024 if possible. Potential continuation date is September 4th, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, staff recommends continuing public hearing pending further review of reports from third-party consultants. Okay, so no, I don't think we've done motions to open the public hearing. I'm right into it. So if we can go right into it, it's fine.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Rizio. Offices at 10 Saskell Hill Road. I'm here tonight representing the Patterson Club located at 1118 Cross Highway. It's a membership club founded in 1946 on a parcel of 165 acres Includes a golf course, swimming pool, tennis and paddleball. It's a newer clubhouse constructed in 2009 and various outbuildings. The club is preparing a golf course renovation project. The first of the two steps is addressing several ponds and culverts in the northwesterly portion of the property which need attention. The commission did have a site visit to the property. You didn't have to jump over any fences. And I believe the site visit showed the issues at hand. Ponds, the streams, and the bridges and pipes that connect all the waterways between holes 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 all need to be addressed. This area floods regularly as the water that enters the property is not properly handled. Most of the ponds have grown over with plants, trees, and are full of sediment from the last few decades. The bridges and pipes that connect them are not sized, angled, or located properly. Addressing these ponds and culverts will provide positive environmental benefits, as the commission will hear. The presentation will consist of Jason Mearsman from the club, Bill Kenny, who you know, and James DeMeo, professional engineer with the Huntington Company, will address the points raised in the GZA third-party review. At this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jason Mearsman, the Director of Greens and Grounds at the Patterson's Club. Jason.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for your time, and also it was great to have you guys out for the site visit. I think it's well said. We're basically looking to restore our ponds, fix some water movement issues and some flooding we've had over major storms as of late. Culverts, just improve the culverts that are currently kind of failing us. Also, the second phase of this project that we were talking about has a irrigation system, so we at that time fixed, that's our water crossings, possible wet well, and anyway, I just would again like to kind of remind everybody that we're really trying to do what's best for the club and the environment and everybody at the same exact time. I think on that site visit was kind of obvious that we're working hard trying to, when we do things, do it once and make it so we can maintain it for the future. And then at the same time, really create as unique native kind of parkland, woodland habitats as possible. We pride ourselves in our best practices when it comes to minimizing water usage, fertility usage, and pesticide usage by over 30% in the last 13 years. A number of things that I think we look at as positives, along with the robotic mowers and just the really trying to get the message out to our membership that pollinator pathway fits this piece of property, and let's keep it going and continue to improve on that. Again, thank you very much. And, Mr. Patrick, continue.
Thank you, Jason. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Bill Kenny of Bill Kenny Associates, a certified professional wetland scientist and soil scientist.
Yes. So we've been working very closely with the club and the club's other consultants, with Jason, his expertise, and it is a great honor and interest to be involved with this, to work with someone. Through my work throughout Fairfield County, Westchester County, and other parts of the state, I work on and visit many golf clubs and country clubs, and I have to say, the stewardship of the land, the balance that they have between play and the environment, it's very impressive to me, having been on many other facilities. So pleasure to be here. Really happy. It's an very interesting project. The need to maintain these ponds, and so working together with the team, with the civil engineer, the club staff, and our staff, I think that we've come up with a good plan that balances the restoration as well as improves habitat at the same time. And so just want to briefly go through. We're going to be focusing on the northwest corner of the site. We have a series of small ponds as you come down a water course that enters the club in the northwest corner and heads pretty much due south through several ponds. The larger pond is the club's irrigation pond. And then ultimately that watercourse leaves the site about midway down on the west side. And overall, I plan to go over in general the plans for the ponds, the watercourses, the wetlands, and adjacent upland areas, the buffers, some other improvements with cart path crossings and culverts associated with that. So we'll walk through some of these different features as we go through the drawings that we put together. So this drawing, turn it this way, it's that northwest corner of the site, and you have the ponds. You come down and I'll zoom in, but the ponds are here along the way, and you have the stream coming through. So starting at the north end, we'll work at the north end and work our way down. So on the top right-hand corner of our drawing, you have a overall drawing that shows the system. So there are the pond maintenance includes removing accumulated sediment. It also includes expanding the ponds in some places. Overall, the plan includes over 6,000 square feet of expansion of wetland and pond habitat. So there, and a lot of the wetland habitat that exists in adjacent to this is this course was constructed long before the wetland law was put into effect. So we're taking some of these turf wetland areas and bringing them back to more of a natural habitat, taking advantage of this opportunity to then expand those natural features. And we're with the crossings for the cart paths. Here's one crossing here, and there's actually another existing crossing here. North is to our left and south is to our right. This is the northern pond. Its current configuration is the light blue. Where the dark blue is where we're expanding that pond. We're eliminating the existing path at the north end, and so opening up something that is where the watercourse is forced to go through a small culvert today. We're completely eliminating that, removing the fill, removing the pipe, and just opening it up. And what we've decided to incorporate into this at this location, at the most upstream location of this system of ponds and streams, to put in what we're calling a sediment sump. So rather than having all the ponds fill up over time, create this sump right at the head of the system where we could trap the sediment and in a very small area, go in there from time to time and remove that sediment instead of having to come back and disturb all the ponds again in the future. So create this one area where it's habitat, but it's also a sediment area, sediment collection area, and in the future maintenance can be focused on this very targeted small area rather than having to muck around in numerous ponds as you come down the come down the stream. So yeah, this area is a good example of also eliminating or dealing with water quality. And Jason can talk more about the maintenance of the golf course and how their organic practices for first they have areas where they put down nothing. And then you go back to that aerial photo I had, you can see there's tremendous acreage of meadows on the property where they're not maintaining turf and cutting it on any regular basis. So they have those meadow areas. That's good habitat. It's good water quality features. Then they have rough areas, and those areas only receive organic compost once a year, I believe.
Correct. We use mushroom soil and then just regular compost in the winter time, put down roughly 1/4 of an inch in these areas. It helps with water holding capacity. And it also eliminates the need for fertilizers that push growth and unneeded areas and yeah, basically.
Yep. And then for the playability of the course, there are some locations where the green is close to a pond. And this is one example where the green is close and there's drains and that to manage that turf, it requires more use of amendments.
Yeah, correct.
But what we've done right now, there are drains that have pipes that just come directly into the pond. We're creating a rain garden wetland system in this area where we can just pull those pipes back and have them go into this pocket wetland here to help clean that before it gets into the open water system. So there'll be a berm between this small wetland area and the open water of the pond to provide treatment in an area like that. And then if we move downstream to the next pond, again, the light blue is the existing shape, and then the dark blue is the expansion. And we also are showing the wetlands expanding in this area. I think if we went back over here, we were showing wetland expansion here and through here. So here's an example where we're not removing a cart path, but what we are doing is putting a much larger opening below the cart path where the stream comes through. So we're by putting that larger opening with more of a box culvert and putting a natural bed at the base of the culvert, we're creating a more natural habitat where that larger opening allows for more passage of aquatic organisms, maybe a small mammal. So allowing for insects and potential for fish to pass through that area and creating a natural habitat there. We're also increasing the opening size and removing one crossing. We'll move downstream now. And this is down to what is known as pond 4 and 3. Pond 4 is here and 3 is here. This area was heavily altered when the course was made. Old channel here, but the existing channel comes down this way into pond 3. These two ponds are essentially isolated right now. The pond is used for irrigation, and city water is also used for irrigation on the course. And the objective is to increase the size of this pond so that less city water is used. So the proposal is to connect these two ponds. And also re-establish an old connection here for inflow water to improve water quality of pond 4. Right now, it's quite stagnant because water is not inflowing and there's no formal outflow from it. So the objective is to maintain the existing channel and have an overflow here so we get more water during storm events to flow into this area, and then make the connection between the two ponds at the south of 4 and north of 3. Lastly, in this area, there's a historic fill that was placed here when this pond was made, and we're proposing to remove that fill, lower that grade so that area is about a half a foot below the water level of the pond, and that to create an emergent marsh habitat adjacent to that pond, a fairly large marsh habitat to help both with habitat and water quality. Lastly, this is further downstream. On the left is the most southern portion of pond 3, and then the stream comes out and there's a small pond here, and another example where we are proposing to expand the pond, also add another one of these pocket wetlands, as there is another green close to the pond in this area. So we'll take the drains from the green and put them into this pocket wetland there. So overall, there's a variety of, although the project is to restore golf course features, we've worked on this closely to ensure that there's habitat enhancements associated with this, and looking for opportunities to do enhancements. So it's not just removing sediment from the ponds, it's expanding the ponds and the wetlands, providing higher quality wetlands where there might be choke wetlands today, creating more emergent marsh wetlands. And then in the upland review area, there's already great management, stewardship, with the meadow areas, the extensive meadow areas that exist on the course. And women here, you get the lighter areas, these are meadow areas that have very low, really no treatment of
Not at all.
fertilization or pesticides or herbicides. And
Basically, any leftover dredging or sediment would be used to kind of spread over those areas to kind of re-energize the soils as well. Right now, as you guys saw, there's a great deal of milkweed and just spectacular habitats in there. And the areas that are, one thing I'd like to point out, some of those areas that he's referring to of lowering and making them kind of a marshy, wet area. Some of those we struggle with invasives in there. So being able to get rid of those invasives and add more of this is just spectacular to me. I think we currently have almost 8 acres of pollinator pathway, and we want to continue to, improve upon that and celebrate that, and also kind of inform our members, and I'm excited about it as well. Yeah.
What's up, Bill? Mr. Chairman, I have with me James DeMayo, a professional engineer with the Huntington Company. I don't think I need to have him testify. There were a number of engineering hydraulic issues, pretty technical in nature, set forth in the third-party review, and those will be addressed by Mr. DeMayo in a written response. If I can just very quickly go through the third-party review. It did state that there's no sediment testing submitted. We had done that in April, and I submitted copies of that study or that analysis to the commission. The conclusion, if I can read it into the record, the analytical results from sediment samples collected from the 5 ponds at the site indicate that no PAHs, those are polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or herbicides were detected. Concentrations of detected metals were consistent with a naturally occurring source. Certain pesticides were detected, but at concentrations below RSR criteria. Basically a clean report. There then are about 12 paragraphs of engineering issues, modeling details, HydroCAD, non-me. Mr. DeMayo will address those in a written report and submit it to the commission. The last paragraph, I think, is very important. It basically says that GZA did not observe any discrepancies between the delineated boundaries depicted and the field conditions observed at the time of the visit. And the last sentence is GZA does not suggest any changes to the wetland or watercourse delineations. So they are in full concert with Bill Kenny's analysis of the wetlands and regulated areas on site. You've heard the details of the proposed pond dredging and culvert work and why this work needs to be done. It needs to be done and will be done in a professional manner. We will submit the documentation suggested in the third-party review, the engineering details. Bottom line, the applicant will be available at the next public hearing if necessary to answer questions regarding that report. And tonight, the experts and I and Mr. Ross Nazaro of Nazaro Inc., the proposed dredging contractor, if you have questions on the contracting details, we'll be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you, Council. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I have a couple quick questions. So Bill, they're gonna be dredging all of these ponds, so you're gonna be creating more storage, correct, of water?
yes.
So with that creation, then you were saying in pond 3 that they're talking about putting in maybe a wet well. So how much more water is the golf course gonna be using?
We'd be using no more water. We would just be able to, the key for that wet well is to dilute the water from the city that we get. Whenever whenever we use city water during major droughts, it makes our plants go deficient of nutrients because it ties up the nutrients in the soil. So then basically we have to do a even more aggressive, light but frequent fertility through foliar feeding than we would like to do. So basically what we can do is now, we would be able to do is dilute that water with pond water, and it would effectively, stop them.
Right. So my question is like, let's say we're having a drought.
Yeah.
And and I'm all for not putting municipal drinking water on lawns, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But my question is, downstream from you guys, if you're pulling all this water and you're creating more storage, how much, is there a cap? Like, who regulates how much water you can pull from these ponds?
Well, we have a water diversion permit.
You do?
Yes,
And that,
yeah. We're only allowed to pull a certain amount per day or within a certain windows as well, so.
okay, so,
Yeah, we have submitted reports every year to the DEP, yeah.
okay, that's my question.
Okay, any further questions, commissioners?
I'm really comfortable. That's why I was interested to what Jay had to say. I mean, I think, Jason, if you don't mind me using your first name, I mean, I don't think enthusiasm is easily faked. And I feel that.
And I think visually, when we were there, we
Yes.
saw the efforts put in.
Right.
It's,
Very evident.
yeah, really commendable.
I appreciate that. We've done a good job creating, a lot of it's been naturally given, like the button bush everywhere and all the sedges on the edges of the ponds. Those are all gonna stay in place. If we have to enter a certain area there, we'll be transplanting into other areas and, if anything, trying to maximize that stuff. And we're excited to do the right thing, and we're excited to, get on to the next step.
I did hear you say many times, it was almost like you were trying to educate people as they use the course. And I was comfortable.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's. No, it's good.
No, and I think the culverts being repaired where there's the discrepancies, we're blocking wildlife on one side. I think that's wonderful to get that remedied and.
I like the educational part of all that.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Jason, I'd like to point out that pollinator pathway signs are $20 each for the large ones.
I was waiting for that.
And $10 each for the small ones.
I think he's unmuting himself.
Yeah. Culverts are very expensive. I'll have to get those after.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Are we gonna hold this public hearing open, or do you wanna close it?
So we're gonna keep it open only for purposes of, well, we're not done yet, but I'll let you know, I'll keep it open because I wanna see what the response to the report is. And we'll, just in case, I'm not, we have plenty of time, so.
I just,
Anybody here in person would like to speak in support of this application?
I would like to do that.
Oh, okay, very good. You're close enough, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
So, your
I wanna
name?
point something out.
Oh,
I'm Jeff Hendrickson.
okay.
I live on Merwin's Lane.
Yep.
Got 2.5 acres adjacent to the golf course. And I've been living there since Jason was in grade school.
Sure.
Nobody knows the place better than I do.
Okay.
Took me down through all these different ponds.
Yep.
Okay. See this one on the end?
Yeah,
That's my pond.
okay.
Okay, that's on our property. And I'm here just to make sure that my concerns go in the record.
Yes.
Okay. Concern number one is that this project doesn't cause any restriction of water flow as it is today. And you are absolutely right. That is so important. All right. The grass loves the rainwater. All right. And I think your mixing tub or whatever you want to call it, it's a great idea. Swell. Okay. So we don't want to restrict the water flow in any way. Bill, can you tell us that your plan will not do that?
It won't restrict the water flow.
Yes. Improve.
I have not done a hydraulic evaluation.
Right. We don't need one. Okay. We really don't need one. But is the golf course going to consume any copious amounts, any additional water that's currently?
No. The idea is to actually get the water flow through the property.
Okay, great.
Much quicker.
I will say that the ponds are essentially at the groundwater level in the area, so they, as a pond, it takes up more volume, but that water would be in the ground anyway, in those areas, yeah.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
By the way, does everybody know this is Saskatoon? Everybody knows that, right? It eventually dumps out into the pond. Well, it runs under my driveway. When it comes out of that pond. You talked about habitat boundaries around the ponds. You know, I'm pretty active up at Smith, and we had a lot of conversation about what we could do with the golf course, and we can't mow, and you can't go at least a 6 foot or a 18-foot around. You can't cut them on the poles. So you're not taking the grass right to the water.
We kind of keeping what we have.
Right.
In interest right now, yeah.
Okay. Fish, we have fish, but the otters come in the winter and eat them all.
Okay.
So, you know, and they used to come and stock it, but I don't think they do that anymore. You went over where you're putting the, what you're digging out, right?
Yeah, sediment areas are just
right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, good.
Listen, I'm 100% support this project. All right, the golf course has been a great neighbor. I try to be a good neighbor, you know, with sound abatement and all that. Because if you live on a golf course, the one thing you don't realize is there's a lot of noise coming from the golf course. And it's not just the parties that they're having, right?
They witnessed one of those.
Yeah, when there's a hole in one, everybody gets nuts.
Right.
But there's a lot of mowing, there's a lot of maintenance, and it starts at daybreak. So you gotta get used to that.
Has the mowing, the sound of the mowing lessened with the new machines that they have?
Can't hear them at all.
So that's a good thing.
Silent.
Yeah, that was the first piece of, that's one of the first areas we made sure they were. As around neighbors that are.
Great idea.
We have tried to keep good relationships.
It's
You have a
great.
great neighbor, sounds like.
Absolutely.
Thank
He
you.
owes me a beer too.
Yeah, so it's good. To increase the size of these things makes a lot of great sense. And you know, as long as we're not getting any debris from the construction. Who's the contractor? Is he in the room?
He's back there.
All right. Could I ask him a question?
Ask us the question,
I'll
just
ask you the question. Will there be any debris from the contractor's stuff that's gonna come downstream, settle in our pond, so that we have to come back with a dredging application?
I would assume there'd be sediment and erosion control measures in place, so nothing should be going that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else here in the public or online that'd like to speak in support of this application?
I just want to point out to the agency that Dustin from GZA, who co-authored the comments, is available online. Any questions?
The ones that they're gonna respond to?
Yeah, just if the agency has anything direct.
You have anything directly now, but I would say wait to the next meeting when we have both that we can look at. I'm assuming that responses would be appropriate then, okay? Anybody here who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Anybody online that'd like to speak in opposition to this application? All right, thank you very much, excellent presentation, and we will.
I think that we could close the public hearing with the caveat that our engineers and our engineer work together. I think the issues are mostly technical issues. I think that they could work that out after the public hearing was closed.
It would only limit us if we close it. I don't wanna close it, just in case there is a need to present more evidence or do some, you know, I don't know. So I don't wanna close it yet, but I don't think we're not gonna vote on it until.
No, I read through the whole thing. Most of them are technical engineering comments. The two of the engineers, I think it could work out satisfactory.
And will this be on the agenda in the 2 weeks where that special meeting is being?
If you can, yeah, we can do that. I would prefer to do it. Yeah, if you can get those responses in, we can get it in on the next one.
Oh, we'll get them in, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so then that'll be fine because that would, yeah. we can put it on there. Yeah.
And then we can discuss with staff whether I need to bring experts to that public hearing or not.
Okay, yeah.
Great,
That would
thank
be
you.
great. Thank you. All right, so, we'll do the last, public hearing one, number 7, and then we'll take a break after that. And continue on with our, confuse myself, but go for this one. Yeah, okay, very good. So we're moving on to number 7, WP-24-0062. Muddy Puddle 3 LLC, 1 Cross Highway, map 170/38. Slash revisions of previously approved construction of single-family dwelling and associated site improvement, corrective action to resolve existing violations related to clearing and filling. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be, continued. The original 35-day public hearing time, the hearing ends September 11th, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicants or further public hearing continuations to November 15, 2024 if possible. Potential continuation date of September 4th. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, the staff does not recommend approval until additional information is provided for review and discussion. I'll start with her.
My name is James McManus. I'm a certified professional soil scientist with JMM Wetland Consulting Services. I'm gonna
Counsel, I realize.
counsel right now, but
Skip my mind, thank you.
that's me.
Yep. Chris?
Chair, members of the commission, Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, offices at 10 Sasko Hill Road in Fairfield, Connecticut, here on behalf of the applicant, which is hopefully nearing towards the end of this long and winding road for this property, which you've been on longer than I have because you were there from the beginning. As you know, this was a development that received approval from this commission. There are plans that have slightly changed, some engineering that has slightly changed. I know Mike Shevlin's there, and a couple of our engineers who are here to answer any questions that you have. But really the main thing was that there was a violation on the property, and we've been working to rectify that. We went through the first phase, which if you recall, was to, because of the time sensitive nature of it, was to lay down a seed mix on the property. I have some pictures if you want to see them. I went out there. I'm obviously not an expert in this area, but it looked great out there. There was tons of bird activity when I was there. But then there's a second part to it, which is a remediation and the plan that Jim has come up with. So I'll turn it back over to Jim and let him walk through his plan. But hopefully you will find this to be satisfactory to cure the violation that occurred on the property, and then hopefully be able to move forward on this property. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Okay, thank you. Jim McManus again for the record. The last time we were here, we started to go through the process of the planting plan. And folks had a few comments, so and then we did a few extra things as well. First thing, I hope you all have the most up-to-date plan. What we did is the woodland restoration planting plan, if you will. The plan in the eastern part of the site where the trees were removed, and that was kind of set the violation into motion. We added a number of new shrubs and a few more trees to that location. I'll go through that. So we've added, from the old plan to the new planting list, we've added 2 red maples. We've added 1 more yellow birch. We kept the swamp white oak the same. We've added 2 more oakberries, 1 more winterberry, 2 more spice bush, and 4 more high bush blueberries in that area. And as you recall, we still had the seed mix applied already. We added 2 more planting areas. One is a raised bed area that is going to be Yeah, it's right there. That's the raised bed and we have some a tree and some native shrubs, sweet pepper bush, and then some perennials. And finally, around the last planting areas, which we call the western property boundary plant list, which are 2 black gum trees, or also called tupelo, and then some native shrubs. Along, we're gonna take out some barberry that's in there and then replace with the native species. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of what we did, addition to what you folks have reviewed already. I went to the site the other day. The center of the wetland looks pretty good. I hate to kind of dig it up and put the plants in, but that's what we proposed, because it has a beautiful wet meadow growing right now. We do need to do a little work near, the demarcation of the stone wall is sort of a transition from upland to wetland at that point, so we got a fair amount of mugwort growing. However, it has been in the maintenance of the site, so we can take care of that as we get back to work, but I thought the eastern part looked pretty darn good.
Okay. I'm gonna ask staff, so what is the additional information that you are looking for? For that's. So what is it that, did you mention something about the brickwork, or is it stonework?
Yeah, it was detailed regarding impervious surfaces for the patio and the driveway, which at the time I wrote that had not reviewed, but speaking with Mike Shevlin this morning, results, he was able to answer my questions.
Are you comfortable with the answers?
Yeah, and it was related to what the surfaces were, how were they pervious, and whether the proposed detention was sufficient to handle that volume.
So in light of your discussions with their experts, are you okay, or are you recommending approval with conditions, or are you you're not recommending approval?
I would, I think I agree with Jim that the planting plan, species, location, size, and functionality is appropriate. I have not been out to the site since, I believe, May, when the seeding was completed. And some of the other items that are being proposed, like
Well, there and there's, I don't know. Oh my gosh.
The guy, one of the guys.
No, like I said.
I'm shocked to see him actually.
Just actually on the phone with our
Oh, right.
friend the other
Yeah.
day, and I said,
Did a stroke.
So you wouldn't just want.
That's our.
It's really very low.
and she definitely
It's like-
cognitive.
It's like.
It's shocking to see some people, you
Ah,
know, that are
it's hard to get hold.
Well,
Chris, you can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Restricted.
We
We've been
have
listening this
we
whole
have audio,
time.
no video.
Oh, we don't need
Well, we
video.
have video here, but
Okay, so there's,
without it.
so we can hear them
No stream.
and they can hear us. And can you record?
Yeah, can they see us?
Oh, okay, no, that, I don't care.
Yeah, they could see us, everything.
Okay, that's,
Luke, we heard everything.
okay, good. Oh my God.
Nothing.
If
Somebody get that commissioner on the filing cabinet some water.
all right, if that's the case, I don't, as long as it's recorded, there's gotta be a record for appeal purposes. The rest, it's for convenience.
You just make it.
So if Chris, if you can hear us, I'll continue on. And we'll go, we're back on the record. And that's good. So we were at, I think the last thing I had heard was your client would agree to the conditions of whatever the staff conditions would be.
Right, Chris?
Yes,
Okay,
I would agree as a condition of approval.
okay. So I guess now we're at commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Fain is still recused. Any comments, questions, commissioners?
2.5 to 3 inch caliper is the
Standard,
of a tree.
the standard size for,
How tall is that if we were just standing here? Just for so people can know what we're talking about.
2-3 feet.
Right.
Might be a little bit more than that, depending. Up to 5 maybe,
That's
depending
a
on
small
the tree.
tree though, right? I mean, I'm just saying that on a.
So you're not gonna get a 10-footer.
Well, you could.
Could, but
I'm only commenting that, for me, when I see these very large circles, it makes it look like it's something that it's not.
no,
Okay.
that's really, those circles,
I'm not prejudiced, just so you know.
No,
That's
I
not a
just know,
negative that I would hold
uh,
against, it's just, I'm just making a comment.
Mr. Kenny cause he's a landscape architect, that's for the spacing. Cause you don't want a crowd, cause a tree will eventually start to grow and get bigger and have
Not
a
in my
crowd.
lifetime, but that's what we're.
That's why I like,
That's what I
that's why
see.
I like wet meadows, because we're losing wet meadows here in the state of Connecticut, all our farms are going out of business, and a nice wet meadow is a darn good habitat.
I'm only commenting on the abstract that.
Yeah, but that's
You know, we tear down
landscape
trees
architect
and-
I
convention.
know we're in the public hearing and we're talking about that, that's something, I was wondering,
That
just
was a
brought it up
question.
like that, would you in your own time at some point, if we were to do it in a future meeting, would you be able to come and give us a little, tell us the benefits of that so we could know and
Sure.
maybe at future
Absolutely.
applications, as a volunteer, if you will, so that we can be educated and say, okay,
Sure.
well, we don't need 10 trees, we'd rather have a big meadow because of certain benefits.
And I actually made that comment earlier, I don't know if anybody caught it, but
That was interesting.
yeah, well, when I went out and visited the site the other day, so you got the boulders, right? And then you got the transition period, which is, I gotta work on that a little bit, and then you get into the real wetland. And the wet meadow component, that's growing seed mix and volunteers and stuff that was in the seed mix, in the seed bank prior to the trees being removed. It just took off. It looks great, it really does, but I hate to go in there again, but we're not gonna go through that discussion now. We're gonna do what we said we're gonna.
So, okay, great. So I guess Tim and you guys can maybe talk in the future and see if there's a mutually agreeable time down the road,
And
That would be helpful.
well, you have been doing it longer than I have, but I also, I do it for I've done it for a number of towns, but I do it for my town all the time. I put on a little workshop. Not a DEP workshop, I do a hands-on kind of workshop, and we go out together and I'll bring frozen soil, upland soil, wetland soil, then I hand you an auger and you tell me where the wetland boundary is, so you get a feel for what we and Mr. Fain and Mr. Kenny do for a living. And also you actually get boots on the ground and see how we do it, why we do it, and then you get a feel for it, get textures. I do that too. If Mr. Bishop wants to engage in that sort of training for the commissioners, I do that as well.
Excellent, thank you. Any further questions, commissioners? I can't see you, Ted, but you're good? Are they still there?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, yeah. Tim?
Just on my question to Jim regarding the planting. I don't remember if I touched upon it in the staff rec, but my one other question was, can you just elaborate on how the trees will be planted by traversing through the wet meadow?
Yeah, I saw that comment. We don't need equipment. These trees aren't, and these shrubs aren't that big. It's gonna be done with a landscaper and they're gonna be using the tools that they use typically during the day, and it's not a mechanized manner. They're not, that's another reason not to have oversized vegetation or trees, because the bigger they get, the bigger the equipment needs to get to install it. And if we're in a wetland, that gets a little dicey.
Okay,
It can get dicey.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So for no further questions from the commissioners, for you guys, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody in the here in favor? Forward, anybody here in person in favor, please come forward. Anybody online, please raise your hand if you're in favor. If you'd like to speak. Right, anybody here in person opposing this application, please come forward. Anybody online opposing this application, please come forward. Okay. Close this public hearing, entertain a motion from somebody to close the public hearing. Commissioner O'Mahony, seconded by, there we go, Commissioner Saunders. All right, all in favor, aye? Aye.
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 All right,
Thank you all.
thank you. We are now moving on. We have 5 applications for retreat. Number 1, WP 24 0079, Plan Tech 4180, Lombard Turnpike, map 70, parcel 79, expansion of an existing parking lot within a regulated area. The last day for public hearing or decision is to October 11, 2024. Last regular meeting prior to for staff recommends schedule public hearing for September 4th or October 9th. Parking lot. We can schedule that for September 4th. Number 2, WP 24 0087. Akmatov and Tina, 2560 Congress Street, map 163, parcel 1A. Relocation of a pipe water course and construction in addition to the associated pipe work within a regulated area. Last date for public hearing and decision is October 11, 2024. Last regular meeting prior to October 9th, 2024. Staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review and scheduling public hearing for September 4th, 2024, October 9th, 2024. Do that for October 9th. Number 3, WP 24 0088, William Kenny and Associates LLC, 2800 Reading Road, map 167, parcel 15A. Move the position of fill and restoration of ground disturbance and water course within regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision October 11, 2024. Meeting prior to 2024. Applicant requests a fee waiver and the staff recommends tabling and legal notice departmental review.
We already voted to deny the fee waiver on this.
I thought we did.
Yes, we did.
This is the new application.
So it's a new, there was, I think, 2 applications ago, right? Was a fee waiver?
It was the last application that kind of got stopped because they didn't have enough information at the statutory time.
So they did pay the fee on the last application.
Yeah, they paid the full fee.
They did not come forward, but we still have their money. And they just reapplied and asking for a fee waiver. We can just take that up now if you want. I mean, we can take up the fee waiver motion or application now.
How much is the fee?
Yeah.
17,000.
Yeah. But why did they say they weren't aware of that?
17,000?
Yeah, cause it was a
They
bio,
just pay that?
yeah.
So we don't gonna pay them, make them pay it twice, right?
Yeah, that's
Right,
what.
that's what
that's-
we-
Yeah,
Okay, great.
So I have it in my notes, they just simply either weren't prepared to go forward, or they didn't know the process,
Alright,
so.
okay. So I'll make a motion that we grant the fee waiver.
Okay, second, anyone second, Commissioner
Second.
Boucher second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, so we're tabling this without putting down anything, Tim?
Sorry?
We're not asking it to go, we're just tabling this application. Good point, right? Not a public hearing.
Yeah, we don't need to
Correct.
schedule a public hearing.
Okay, good. Number 4 is WP 24-0089 Land Tech 520 Sasko Hill Road, map 231, parcel 389. Demolition of existing residence and construction of a new single-family residence with attached garage, driveway, pool, spa, pool house, shed, patios, landscaping, and associated site improvements within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing and decision is October 11, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is October 9, 2024. Staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review, scheduling public hearing for September 4th, or October 9th. You could schedule that for October 9th.
To the public hearing?
Yeah, it says.
You recommend a public hearing?
Yes, we do. This is a significant
Significant,
Right,
yeah,
application.
yeah. Number 5, WP 24-0090, William Kenny Associates LLC, 123 Berwick Avenue, map 79, parcel 67A. Construction of a 2-story, single-family residence with driveway, rear deck, and associated improvements within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision, so October 11, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is October 9th, 2024. Staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review. Can we put this on to the special one? Or is it too soon? Too soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
The legal notice was just published for the.
Okay, so then put it for September. Number 6, WP 24-0092 MK 2024 Family Home LLC, 680 Old Academy Road, map 171, parcel 9A, corrective action, wetlands restoration, establishment of an organic orchard within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing and decisions October 11, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is October 9, 2024. I know that there was an omission here, there should have also been a fee waiver request. So in the minutes, we can correct this agenda, later. In addition to that, staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review or scheduling public hearing for September 4th or October 9th, 2024. Put it down for October 9th.
I have a question before we, and
Yeah.
I guess this one and also the number
Yeah.
2 under the, sorry, because it's similar. I read through the conservation, doesn't it have to come to conservation before we go to have a hearing on this? Because we have to grant.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're all gonna. When I get to that, I was gonna.
Okay, I
say
just,
they're
all
gonna go
right,
together.
good. I just wanted to bring up that point.
Yeah.
May I be heard?
Yeah, sure. Yes, Council, hi.
Thank you. Sarah Sharp, 135 Broad Street, Milford. As you'll recall, I was before you in June on this corrective action matter. The one thing, just briefly, we would ask is to be on the agenda for September 4th. We are trying to be able to plant in the fall planting season, which is why we're trying to push for September 4th. We have submitted the request for the conservation easement to be considered on August 26th. At that meeting, that application has been submitted. So it should be considered at that meeting and would allow that to have been considered and resolved and voted on by you before the September 4th meeting. So that's our request on the date. I did want to address the fee waiver of request. So the request, as I explained, it's because this was all done in preparation for planting an organic orchard, and it's our position that that is exempt under the statute and the regulations, and it would have been considered under a petition for declaratory ruling in the normal course. And I did discuss that with staff prior to the submissions, and Director Bishop said, you know, that wouldn't resolve the notice of violation and inland wetlands permit. So we submitted that application, but we submitted it in the alternative. It's the same information that's under the declaratory ruling petition. I do have 2 cases that support that position. One case is the Sackler versus Inland Wetlands Agency of Woodbridge. That is by Judge Cordino, and from, I believe, 2000. Yes, the Westlaw site?
Any site.
Okay, 2006 WL 3316991. And in that case, the property owner had removed rocks, stumps, and other vegetation in preparation for creating a fenced-in pasture for horses at grazing. And Judge Cordino looked at the statute, determined that the keeping of horses and grazing is a farming activity that is exempt under the statutes, the same as an orchard would be here. And then considered whether the preparatory activities would also be considered exempt, and determined that there was nothing in the regulations that would, nothing in the statutes that would say that it's not exempt as preparatory, that if you were to read preparatory as not being exempt, that would mean that only existing farming activities are exempt, and that's not the way that the statute has been interpreted in the past. And this was, you know, Judge Cordino with many, many decades of land use experience and many decades on the bench at that point. And I will be submitting that, a copy of that that case as well as a memo following this hearing. The other case I have is Conservation Commission versus Di Maria. That is 2008 WL 3307154. And that's by Judge Radcliffe. In that case, a property owner established a barn and paddock and grazing and training area in the wetlands and upland review area. The Conservation Commission of Fairfield began an enforcement action, and the property owner argued that those activities were exempt as of right, even though they were preparatory and done without a permit. Judge Radcliffe expressed and noted that while a declaratory ruling under 4-4 of the Fairfield regulations should have been sought before the work begun, the failure to seek a ruling does not alter the exempt status of the work performed and contemplated. So it is our position that the inland wetlands permit application is not appropriate if the activities that were performed are all exempt farming activities under the statute.
What year did Judge Radcliffe make that ruling?
2008.
2008? So,
yes.
Okay.
And there are no appellate court decisions that are on point. We only have Superior Court.
Yeah, but if Radcliffe did that, that's where we would be.
Right, it is, yes.
That's really the.
Yes, of course.
Are you gonna be able to do a brief that you might be able to give us?
Yes, I would intend to submit that within the next week.
Okay, why don't you do that? We won't take up the fee waiver now until we get that brief.
Okay.
And we can put that part of it on the inland wetlands meeting we're having after the Conservation Commission meeting. You're gonna be there for that?
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll take it up there. I'll just say, if council's gonna prepare a brief, no matter how we might feel, I would behoove our commissioners to read it and understand what these judges, especially Radcliffe, because he's the guy in Bridgeport that takes up all of these cases. So I don't wanna waste time. It's good. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
So we will put 6 on for September 4th. I'll jump around and now go to Roman 6 application for discussion and put declaratory ruling MK 2024 Family Home LLC 680 Old Academy Road, map 171, parcel 9A. Request to establish an organic orchard within a regulated area. Put that on September 4th as well. there's a good chance that it will only be the declaratory ruling that you'll be dealing with on September 4th. Okay? Yep, thank you, counsel. We are now back to Roman numeral 6 application for discussion. But modification request for W2-23-120. Gordon 546 Avenue Road, map 171, parcel 9. Request for modification of approved plant species material and installation of an elevated boardwalk instead of stone footbridges within a regulated area. It says here, staff recommends tabling pending departmental review. However, I understand that something's occurred since then. Sarah, would you be able
I
to?
believe their consultant is online. He was before the break, so Joe, if you're still on.
Yes, I'm on.
Thanks, Joe. We can't see you, but we can hear you, and obviously it's being recorded, so please bear with us if we seem disjointed, but we can hear you and hopefully you can hear us. So Sarah, where do we stand now? Where does the staff
So
stand now?
this application had been approved last year for a meadow restoration. And they're coming back now to ask for some changes in the planting plan, and there had been these like stone footbridges proposed before. And there had been some concerns during it where we said we'd come up with something after the fact because it was very wet in those areas, and they are now proposing a boardwalk area instead of the stone footbridges. It's like a little bit raised for the walk, which I think Joe can explain a little bit more.
Okay, all right, Joe, would you care to explain? Would that be?
Yes, so my name is Joe Larico from Dan Gordon Landscape Architects. With me today, I also have Morgana Tethero-Keller and Chris Charpin from Larry Wiener Landscape Architects. The last time we were in front of the committee in October, the Meadow project at 546 Academy was approved and has since begun site prep. One of the things that we discussed during that meeting was our intention to collaborate with a meadow specialist on this project, specifically LWLA. They've since joined us on the project, and kind of a combination of their expertise, continued site observation, as well as additional requests by the homeowner have kind of led us to make this request for a modification. The requests, there are 4 basic modifications to the plan that we're requesting, kind of through the additional site analysis by LWLA and observation. They've proposed a revised meadow planting consisting of native grasses, sedges, rushes, and forbs. There are 3 mixes as opposed to the 2 that were originally proposed. And they were chosen, not only for aesthetic qualities and seasonal interest, but also, kind of hardiness to the specific on-site conditions that we've observed, throughout the year. Secondly, we're requesting the addition of some non-native screen trees. We're requesting the addition of some large Norway spruce for screening along the periphery of the property on the north and west property boundaries. We're proposing these trees based on, kind of their characteristics as large screening trees to kind of suit the client's desires, but also as an alternate to what we would consider the most suitable native alternative, which would be the hemlock, which require additional maintenance to protect from the woolly adelgid. There's also, what we're proposing is also a 16 to 18 plus size tree. And there's also kind of a current lack of availability of good large native nursery stock. And so that's kind of playing into the decision making as well. There is also precedent of established Norway spruce plantings on site and in the surrounding neighborhood. This would be in addition to proposed native shrubs, native flowering trees, and 3 native canopy trees within the controlled resource area. And then we were also requesting the addition of wood boardwalks with helical piling construction. In our last meeting, the committee actually suggested we may want to look at doing wood boardwalks kind of instead of the stone crossings that we initially had proposed and were approved. After kind of observation this spring of additional wet areas, we've revised the plans to reflect a series of 3 boardwalks to provide the homeowner access year-round. It would be installed using helical pilings, which are commonly used for wetland applications, installed without the need for any excavation or concrete footings, and we believe will minimize disturbance to the surrounding wetland area during construction. And then finally, we've included some additional information on the process, installation, and maintenance, just provided directly from LWLA, who will be overseeing the meadow installation.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
Using Norway spruces here is routine practice. They're deer resistant, they're disease resistant. They're much more robust than the hemlocks. Hemlocks really don't do well in this environment at all anymore. So I don't have a problem with the substitution for the Norway spruces. And I think that the helical boardwalks would have less impact than the stone bridges anyway. So it seems to be.
All right, Commissioner Fain, so.
Any other questions,
Commissioners?
Yeah.
We have more than one disease and they just don't thrive anymore.
It's inevitable and you can't really.
It's even if even with the dormant oil, they won't.
Okay.
Is the wood for the boardwalk? Am I on mute?
Nope, we can hear you.
All right, is the wood for the boardwalk pressure treated, natural, or would you use Trex boarding?
So it would be a natural wood top deck with PT sub deck.
Okay, pressure treated sub deck. Okay, I'm trying to think of what the most sustainable material would be. Cedar, probably.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of pressure treated wood.
I mean, the proposal is also to keep the deck elevated, so the deck will stay, 6 inches above grade.
Minimize rot, okay.
To minimize rot and contact, and to also allow, any wildlife, that kind of thing to pass through.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners? Tim, Sarah, do you wanna, is there anything you guys?
No, they nailed it all. Our request verbally was the elevation for wildlife passage, which they've designed.
Yeah, okay. All right,
We're good with it.
so we're good. All right, anybody have any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve modifications. That's fine.
Are there any conditions, Tim,
Not that aren't already on the record.
that aren't on the record? Okay, so there's a motion. Anybody second that motion?
Second.
Oh, Commissioner Luxinger seconds that. Okay, very good. All in favor? Aye. All right, very good. Congrats.
Great, thank you so much.
Welcome. Moving on, Roman rule. 7, bills and bond releases number 1, IWP 2020-21-01, Wisniewski, 1019 Mill Hill Terrace. Demo existing house and construction new duplex within a regulated area. Request of Alexandra Moak for final bond release of $14,420. Staff recommends final bond release of $14,420. Sarah, everything's been done?
Everything's been done. It took a little bit to get there, but that gave enough time for the plantings to have been in for a long time, so we don't even need to hold any. For
Yeah.
that, it's been like 3 years that the plantings have all been there.
Wonderful. Can I get a motion? Okay, Commissioner O'Mahony motions, I'm assuming to release.
To release.
Yeah. Anybody second? Commissioner Bersage seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now, folks, bear with me on Roman numeral 8, legal enforcement actions. I'm gonna read them for the record all the way through. And then I'm gonna ask Tim to just give us a brief rundown of it all, so we don't waste more time, okay? On each one, if you will, individually. All right, so number 1, 12 Chestnut Street LLC and 16 Chestnut Street LLC. 12 and 16 Chestnut Street, map 128, lot 144 and 145. Number 2 is Billick, Thompson, and Lukich, 43, 51, and 57 Doreen Drive, map 177, lot 27, 28, 29. Eisner, 475 Fence Road Drive, map 254, lot 25. Haynes, 322 Homeland Street and 1017 Valley Road, map 28, lot 85 and 87. Rodas, 235 Fairland Drive, map 76, lot 139. Jerka, 207 Riverview Circle, map 147, lot 325. Pavlis and Daly, 253 Reading Road, map 225, lot 37, and number 8, Sackett, 49 First Street, map 33, lot 51. Can you summarize those for us, Tim?
Absolutely. Majority of them are related to minor activities or deposition. I would say most, if not all, have been addressed and cooperative. Staff and I are in progress of resolutions. And I would also add number 9, update briefly as I circulated today, 144 Bennett Street. Town council has submitted a motion for contempt due to lack of inactivity as requested by or ordered by the court. So that was new as of this afternoon. Otherwise, these are new for, the time period of post the June meeting. So basically June, July, and August. There's a lot going on, but we're working through it, so.
Good. Good. Roman numeral 9, staff report from Conservation Department. A, CWC permit applications received 21. B, notice violations issued 8. And C, bond releases 3. Anything you wanna, nothing really to add about that, right?
Yeah, as you can see in letter A, 21, staff level permits is a lot, so.
That is over the 2 months, so it's still a lot.
It's still a
It's
lot.
still been very busy, but it is over 2 months.
All right. Number 2, site walks for August. So there's a lot going on, right? I don't know, and plus we're having the special meeting
On the 21st.
on the 21st. So
My suggestion would be to address the September 4th sites.
Yeah.
In sometime in August. Is that up to the agency?
no, yeah, that's what we should do. Fleming's. The meeting's on the 21st, right? Is that okay for folks? You're gone? Okay.
If possible, would it be, make sense to do 680 Old Academy would be on that sidewalk list? Maybe it'd be better for everyone to see it before the 21st.
Oh.
For Concom and
Well,
the agency, just a suggestion. I don't know if there's time, but it'd be beneficial to see it.
How's the 14th for just 680 for folks? next Wednesday?
14th is fine.
Alright, so on the 14th, we can do just 680. And we're getting into Labor Day too, that's no good. How,
The Black Rock Turnpike site is just behind the Hi-Ho for reference. The back parking
Yeah,
lot,
it's the parking lot for Hi-Ho.
oh, okay,
if that's helpful.
it's just looking at it, right?
You can do that on your own.
Yeah, so that one just do on your own, the parking lot, drive through the Hi-Ho, that's right there. What else should we put?
The other two.
Academy Road.
Stop by Barcelona.
Yeah, right. Special meeting. How's, I mean, we do it in the winter, do you wanna do a Sunday morning? The 18th?
Don't everyone speak at once.
We're waiting on you.
Works. Alright, I mean, how? I mean,
Are you're saying August 18th?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. August 18th, I don't know, do you wanna 9 o'clock?
Better than 8.
Yeah. You'll send out the agendas for that, right? So, yeah. So the 18th will be for the September, remaining September ones. The 14th will be just for 680 Academy.
At what time?
Where is it?
Yeah, so our normal time, yeah, 6
We're
o'clock.
gonna do Hi-Ho on our own.
Yep. And then 9 o'clock for the 18th. And then we have Concom and inland wetlands on the 21st. And we should be all good.
Up to snuff.
Yep, okay. Moving on to 10 would be other. Anything from any commissioners? No, okay. Well then, shall we go to our discussion on the public hearing? All right, let's start with the first one, the 452 Stilson Road. Comments, questions, any discussion? Motion?
I feel at this point, I wasn't quite comfortable with the way the engineering firm had responded in terms of the questions that SLR had raised, but after hearing it tonight, the explanation, I'm okay with the explanation. I think we've done our due diligence in terms of both the drainage and also the wetlands. We've learned that the wetlands are slightly bigger there, and we embrace that. They've eliminated that 15th unit, which I thought was a big give.
Yeah.
And then also they eliminated the dumpster, which was right without even telling us, which was good. So I'm in favor of and I will make a motion to approve the application with conditions as provided by staff.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Anybody would like to second it or have further discussion?
I just have a question for the group since I'm the newest one here. It seems like there's a lot of impervious surface
72%.
and I just don't understand why it has to be that way.
Well, so we've had this before and we've tried to go with the pervious pavement stuff and some other projects.
Permeable,
I'm sorry, permeable pavement. And
okay.
it sounds great, but it's difficult to upkeep and there might be down the road in the future, it might not be as beneficial, was one of the things that came up. But the second part is even with this, if the water management system that's in place does its job, that's really all we can.
I guess I'd go and say, if this was all in a regulated area more, then we could propose more LID and permeous paper, but we're dealing with only one unit or half a unit in the regulated buffer. And I think it would be overreach for our jurisdiction to try to dictate the whole stormwater management system. It's outside of our jurisdiction. That's the way I see it anyways, because otherwise I would have been all over that.
I'm really happy for your explanation. That's what I was talking about before.
Yeah.
I mean, I need you.
Yeah, I definitely want, and I did definitely question their drainage system. I looked at it carefully. And then we did improve it by having the polishing with the wetland that Bill Kenny's proposing.
Right.
So I think it's a better, system, but for us to start micromanaging things that are in the planning and zoning purview, it starts to get.
An example for if their developer wanted to be, kind of do one of these to us, they could have gotten rid of those 2 units and gone, or one more unit and been outside of the upland review area.
Yeah.
They could, nothing. They don't have to come here. So that's also a little bit of a balancing act.
Okay.
And we did reach into that, we got SLR to review it. I think we improved the drainage system.
Yeah.
And I didn't wanna go too much further personally because.
Yeah, and unfortunately, traffic on Stilson is not our purview, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So Diane, once, Kate and I had that, Kate, we were talking about that with, the High Street property. And she really brought up the trouble with the permeable pavement in some cases is you're never gonna know that they're gonna maintain it.
Yeah.
And Kate asked one question, what are you gonna do in the winter? And the guy said, sand it. Well, then it's done.
Yeah.
And that really triggered a totally different decision from me on that particular one, because I'm into the salt thing. But that's a good thing to think about too, that
But I
we're
do
not gonna be
think,
around for them to maintain it.
well, but I do think that you're absolutely right, that we need to look at multi-levels of how we're gonna keep this, like, maybe not in this application, but, and I really kind of wish they would have gotten rid of that back building, like, and gotten, like, I feel like they've got a lot in there, they could have given us a little bit more room back in there.
I think the one was a give that was planned in the beginning.
I agree.
That's just my.
I feel like,
sense of it,
I feel like it was,
Really?
You know me, I'm thinking
I
this.
kind of, I do feel a little that,
Give me a break.
yeah. And I feel like that, if they had gotten rid of building 4.
Yeah, it's for 10, you're happy with 8.
That's right.
But number 19 was
Well,
not.
so
a
there's
real-
still a
not
motion
real
on the
house.
floor that's not been seconded.
Well, look, I'll tell you, I'm 72%. It's the coverage of this property and I just can't do it. I see it in the winter. There's something that's not working for me. I know Jay thinks otherwise, but I'm just not comfortable with where all that salt's gonna go. It's just probably my ignorance.
I thought they answered that by saying that
They
there's
did, and
a mechanism in place
Yeah.
to.
So I mean, maybe if there was a motion, the only way I would really be comfortable with it is if it was amended that there was a condition of maintenance written right in.
Yeah, but who's gonna manage the maintenance?
I don't believe anybody will.
Somebody gonna manage the maintenance.
I think we do have, there is maintenance requirements for all these things. It's
Who
not,
polices it? I'll do it every month. Yeah.
certain people do. I know that there's a shopping center in Fairfield Woods. Where they go out there and they do their inspections all the time and they do keep it up. Some town,
Why do you think they do that?
because it's expensive installation. If they fail, they have to replace it.
Okay, I mean, that's
So
worth knowing.
does that answer, does that
That-
help
that
you? If they
helps
put this
me
mechanism
up to a
in,
degree, yeah, that does help.
then it would be costly to let it fail.
Yeah, we look at these things itself as that it's a condo complex and after a while.
Drainage, they have a drainage manual. They require an operation and maintenance thing to be filed on the RAN records and inspection every 5 years and reports done. Fairfield hasn't gotten there yet. All the towns will get there eventually. It's something that we can work towards. You can certainly we can certainly add a condition that they have to do a maintenance on a regular basis and provide a.
Turning into a shoulder shrug,
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have any permeable, I mean,
No, I'm
right now.
talking about-
Oh,
They have to, the world separator has to be cleaned out.
A new wetland that all I see is negative. And I also, part of the problem for me is drain events, they're not rain events anymore. it's getting crazy. We don't know what rain is anymore. Look at the last week, look what something's coming. I just don't see making assumptions on the future.
I hear you, I just, we,
Yeah, I would almost be more comfortable abstaining than I would be.
just that, our regulations. Yeah, are good and bad.
Specific.
We have to go by the regulations, and that's.
Right, we've got the 2 and 10 year,
Right, if
you
you
know,
comply with that,
standards, which are probably out of date.
no,
It's actually very strict.
We can't do nothing with that, so.
It's more stringent than most towns have.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
good standard.
And so we do stuff and some people can appeal it, right? Like if we were gonna not take up an action because we don't like it, but it complies with what our regulations are, we can vote against it or abstain. But if we don't move it forward, that's.
It's not dealing with the issue, it's
Yeah.
just, it's my own, it's not dealing with it's just my own personal thing, and but abstaining and
Yeah.
voting negative doesn't really solve anything.
Right.
But from the standpoint of being in compliance with the regs, you know,
I think they are.
they've done it.
Yeah, they have a good record and in terms of going right back to what the impact of the wetland is, I think they've provided ample evidence that there's no substantial impact.
And our charge, Pete, is to work within the guidelines that we're assigned to,
Well, I'm
Whether-
grateful for the information and the expertise of not only Jay, but everybody. But I'm also a person, I like it out loud because I sense that there's going to be something down the road, still opposition from somewhere. I think it's better when the discussion is.
I'm organizing that opposition,
There's always gonna be an opposition.
but it has nothing to do with inland waterways.
We have to do, it's just, the only thing we have is our regulations and that's
So
our
you're really
guidance.
saying that for me to abstain would not be suitable?
No, you can,
Okay, I'm just-
no, you can do
Vote.
I
anything
like-
you feel comfortable doing,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
So.
I wanna make sure that we have votes that doesn't. If
Okay.
I was to do that, this is being
Well,
No,
Peter,
no,
vote your
I would
conscience.
be more comfortable if they had
Oh,
moved
I
that
didn't know
building.
you were here, I couldn't
Well,
see you.
So
I
on the
know,
one hand,
I,
they did, right? So they
Right, they
presented
did.
an application
I know.
and then we talked about it and said, why don't you remove it? And then they did, so that is basically putting forward the alternate plan
Right.
that's feasible and prudent, and they did. So they did all of it.
Well,
And they agreed to the dark skies compliant lighting.
On that project, we would have had to made a finding that it had a substantial impact to the
And
wetlands.
it wasn't, it was only, it was touching the upland review
Right,
area.
so that's why we couldn't.
Right.
Right.
That's the other issue.
So you'd feel better if they
Well,
did
I know,
more.
look
So
at
can we add the recommendation that the Lumieres are dark skies compliant? Or did they agree to that anyway?
Really,
They-
Ted,
they-
I
they agree.
Ted, I mentioned that on
You had a
your
good night,
behalf.
Ted, you had a great night.
I had that, mentioned that, Ted, on your behalf, and my understanding was that dark skies would be that there would be no ambient light and it would be directed downward, and that's.
They
That's
agreed
not
to
really
both, the dark and the motions.
But I
Yeah,
think
that's exactly what it is, just a full cutoff, so there's no bleed above the horizontal.
Alright, well, I as chairman, I still need at least
I'll
a
second
second,
it, I'll
okay?
second
Alright,
No.
alright, we have a full motion and we can still have discussion, but it's there, or we can vote, whatever your pleasure is.
I'll call for a vote.
Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4 are in, Ted, are you in favor? Ted's raising his 5. Alright, so 5,
Out of 7.
so it's passed. Now I'll
I'm
say
gonna abstain.
Peter abstains, and
No.
you're a no. Okay, that perfectly fine. It does pass, but there's a no for Commissioner O'Mahony for the record, and Commissioner Hood abstains. Very good. Moving on to number 2. That one's the 220 Pansy Road one. I was really impressed with the alternatives they came up with. We asked them for that and they didn't, not that it wasn't pushback, but I mean, they just took it. Really impressed that there wasn't any hiding, oh, there's really no alternatives, this is the only plan. I'm, I also put myself in the shoes of a potential homeowner, right? I don't want wanna see the guy next door, the gal next door, the little, area in between with trees and stuff.
Well, have a natural area between the houses is ideal. I'd want that house.
Yeah, seriously.
Come on, you're gonna move it
but I-
from New York, you
I'd
don't
like to
care.
ask Commissioner Saunders, what was the,
Well, I still have an
reticence?
issue. I mean,
yeah,
I,
what is the issue with?
let me just
with the
say,
lot
I'm
size?
generally in favor of their plan. I
Yeah.
think we get a lot out of it with the big wetland area that we'll get, and there's a minimal impact on wetlands that are being removed, but I don't understand why we can't press these people to just accept the minimum lot size.
What do you mean the
What
minimum?
is the
lot?
minimum
What do
lot
you- what do you-
Well,
well,
The minimum, their building, their lots are a quarter acre. Minimum lot size is about 2.1 acres. So there's some square footage there that if they reduce the lots just about less than 1,000 square feet each, must be a little more than that, because I calculated we could get or not give up an additional 3,000 square feet of wetland. So we'd only be giving up about 2,000 square feet, which is
Oh.
nothing. So,
But if
I
that,
mean, you said it was zoning,
yeah, but if
but
that was,
it's not really, because it's our purview to say whether or not we agree to give up any wetland.
Would we
Would
be
we
So-
endangering
give
the
up
sale of the property though?
yeah,
Well, there,
No, I'm just putting that out.
right now it's a farm. And it can do whatever it wants
Right.
there,
right.
Right.
really dirty farm.
Well, and this is why I say I'm generally in favor.
Okay.
But I think they're pushing the envelope by going to a little bit bigger lot size than what is
I'm
required.
sorry, but a quarter acre is not a particularly large lot.
Yeah, it's,
That's not that's in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood.
The other,
I know, but if you're building a new house, and I have this issue with zoning in general. If you're building a new house, why are you asking for an exception? You can just build it to whatever the specs are. And the specs are, it's 9,375 square feet. So they're not doing that.
And Ted, what I would
They're
say,
building, they're giving that lot over 10,000 square feet.
Mhm.
And asking us to agree that we'll just let them take part of the wetland for that excess.
well, they're not taking it, they're also putting in wetland in other areas.
But we
we're
can get
also-
that, we'll get that anyway.
Yeah, but isn't there a limitation if they wanna add to the house that's based on the total lot size and the size of the house on the lot? Isn't that a calculation that might handcuff them from being able to expand
but
their
what,
property at some point in the future?
But this is not our problem.
I'm starting to agree with Diane.
that's
Well,
always been,
well, and I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, and I understood what you were trying to say during that discussion was that
But I
what is the
think
minimum, what is the minimum that they, for the lot,
But I
for
think
that zoning?
we're
And
going,
then
House is gonna
if
sell?
we give them a quarter acre.
Why should we give them more?
if they
And it
comply, if
takes
they
it-
comply with our regulations, that's all we need to
But
do.
they're not,
But they
because
are.
we're
we're giving,
We're giving them wetland.
we're giving, you
Diane,
know,
what's the
we're
minimum
allowing a
requirement?
wetland impact in exchange
Diane, what's the minimum
for
requirement?
mitigation.
Yeah,
right, he's right. We're
But-
giving up
But
something.
they're also giving
And
up
the
a farm.
minimum lot size is 9,375 square feet.
9,375, well, what are they getting?
And
They're
they're,
asking for 10,890, but
right,
they're proposing,
But
as
they're
far as
also
I
giving
understand
it
it, they're putting a conservation
Conservation
easement over that. I think
Yeah.
that,
have to do
it's
that.
not a big point. I'm just saying it's
It's
almost,
still gonna be wetland.
you know, if we're gonna go down this road with it, with this.
it's philosophical.
Yeah, but my feeling is if we're going down this road, we're already accepting a certain level of wetland impact. and we're giving, and what we're getting back is, 8 acres of open space and wetland restoration, everything else. So I think it's a fair, I think, and I'm very conservative,
I think
but
it's more
it's a
than fair,
fair
it's almost
shade.
like an exchange of, just give us these 2/4 acre plots
Yeah,
and you get to regulate all of it.
I agree entirely, but I just think that we should understand what we're doing.
But you know,
That we're
I-
giving them
I-
something that
I
we don't
didn't
have
know
to
that.
give them.
I didn't know that.
but Tim was just saying, and but it's still gonna be wetlands, so it's still regulated. So even though it's gonna be theirs, it's still gonna be regulated, so that gives.
Protected with a conservation
I
easement.
mean, it's almost like overkill. It's they're protected in the sense from a conservation easement standpoint.
We're not
And because
deregulating
it's
it and
still
saying it's not
wetlands, you
wetlands.
can't do anything.
I didn't feel comfortable when they did it before because they were putting the house right in the wetlands.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to avoid the wetlands with, and then they're mitigating. And I think, considering that the
problem with
wetlands that they're actually doing highly impacted.
Yeah.
I think
It's
this,
never been well maintained.
this is a good,
I think it's a good compromise, especially with all the water coming off the commercial properties on Black Rock.
And I
for the
was
people who
comfortable
live
with
along there.
the stream movement,
Yeah,
I didn't have a problem with that,
Yeah.
so because
I think at the end of the day, we all worked together, and we came up with a plan that I can support.
yeah, I think it's a better, cleaner property now. It's
I think we're
more
doing B.
productive as a wetland and as a
We're
property
discussing
in
B,
general.
correct? We're discussing B, right?
B?
Yeah, B.
Yeah. I just,
Discussing.
Peter was,
Oh, yes,
B,
yeah.
no, Peter was just saying, and I'm like, no, we're talking about B.
Yeah, B is the one
Oh, yeah, B,
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 yeah.
oh, yes, B,
We all like that.
B,
B,
B, yes, so if anybody were
For
to.
the record, for the audio.
Yeah, if there was a motion to come up, it would be for approval of alternative plan B.
Right, and I just, to add to what Diane is saying, we're going backwards a little. For me, I don't know why we're talking about what's desirable and what's sellable. I don't care. I don't care what they build there, it will sell instantly. That's Fairfield, so I'm never concerned about any of these conditions. They just don't interest me. And I said, I would prefer the submitted proposal, push it in the corner. I'm just not getting why this is better, but that's okay. So I'm just putting it out there. That I don't care what the size are. I would prefer they be
We would
smaller.
certainly within our rights to deny this and to say, that's it, I think if we could come up with ample reasons to deny this, if that's the way you feel, and I think
Well,
we'll hold up in court. But this is kind of a one-off, the black swan because everybody looked at this and said, we're getting so much, all right? So if you don't feel comfortable with it, then deny it, but otherwise, I think
No, I wouldn't.
I think it's
I think it's a great
it's a
plan.
fair
No,
plan.
I'll get
Yeah,
to
I
the
think it's
part about
good for
how
the applicant,
enthusiastic I am.
I think that we're kind of nitpicking if we take away the extra
Yeah.
square footage.
And I'm going back to what it is now, which they could just say, screw it, I'm gonna keep it this way.
Keep it,
And do it even worse, and they have a right to do it. That's the thing.
right, as of right.
This right now, there's no as of right, it's no longer a farm and it's completely regulated.
And we get the potential for some open space with hopefully a
Yeah.
trail and some access.
We get the open space.
We get it, yeah.
I'm just saying, it's just such a.
One of the most important, if you look at it from
Very exciting.
how much water is in that area and how much area it's very important.
Yeah.
So
So,
what you're saying out loud is it's in the town's interest to be in control of that too.
Yeah.
It's a very important.
You heard all the people we've had a lot of hearings of people around here and they all complain about the flooding. Gaining control of this is gonna give the town a lot more opportunities to do floodwater management.
Well, and the potential gain of space is just, it's incomparable.
yeah.
There's nothing left.
That's,
You'll never see this opportunity again in your life.
and I'm very conservative, and I'm very protective of wetlands. I think that we are, and I wasn't comfortable with the first plan, putting the house right in the middle of the wetlands. This one I can get behind.
All right.
Okay.
Anybody motion for Plan B?
I will. How's that?
Oh, wow, yes.
Are there any,
Okay.
Second.
There
Tim,
you go.
are there any other
Commissioner Hood
conditions?
first, Commissioner Boucher second.
I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't, this
Yeah.
kind of came out of the blue. I haven't even looked at the plans yet they never got circulated. Is there anything else that we should look at in terms of stormwater or utilities or anything else that you or conditions that you would, Sarah, have come up with that?
The one that I believe is on the record and likely in my staff rec was to actually grant the donation of that third parcel to us, to the town.
I thought that was part of
Part of it, I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
I think I agreed to the conditions. This was simply showing us, this was simply showing us alternatives.
Yeah, just like I said, I couldn't look at the plan closely because I didn't have it, so I assume you guys looked at it, so I'm trusting that everything's.
And I think Bill has copies.
Yeah, with public hearing is closed, so.
Yeah. On his.
So we have a motion
Yeah,
for
no
B,
other.
with any previously approved conditions,
Did you wanna see?
first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, all around ayes. All right, moving on to number 4. WP 24 0022, Grant 975 Mill Hill Road, map 228, parcel 97. Installation of a drainage swale in a regulated area. Yes, okay, that's the thing in the back, right? Okay, what do you guys think here?
I was a little confused about that one. Can we? What is like, can we make a decision today or are they correct?
Sure.
We can, okay,
No, we can make a decision,
Make a
sure.
decision.
okay.
Absolutely.
The idea was that you would make their decision.
No, I know, but my question was like,
It's always the idea.
but this piece of property is in no way part of that
It's a
litigation.
separate
It's a
thing.
completely separate, right?
They were trying to make it as part of it.
Right.
I'm sure that they're gonna, there's a good chance they'll take an appeal, but it doesn't matter, we'll have to set the record. This is a very straightforward application. What happened here was they built a berm and planted trees on it, which interrupted the flow from 875
Right.
Mill Hill. They're just simply gonna rectify the situation. It's
That's what I
absolutely.
understood. I thought it was very comfortable, but I'm like, I didn't understand like when they were talking about, I'm like, okay, cause then they were saying like we can't.
A lot of smoke and a lot of mirrors, but.
There was a
that
little
is
bit of a
very straightforward.
minimization of the because there were 2 violations and suddenly tonight we only have 1. It's not all perfect
And you guys are all good,
nice.
staff is all,
Yeah, I recommended approval.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's very basic. The water's flowing in that direction. It's topography, it's very
yeah,
basic.
I thought it was very straightforward.
Commissioner Fain's smoke and mirrors comment. I think that's
Yeah,
exactly what.
okay, I just wanted to be sure, but then they said that, and I was like, you know, okay.
Seems to me the people at the pond are trying to take over the entire neighborhood.
Well, that's one of the things that.
So anyway, I'll make the motion to
Yep.
approve.
Okay,
With
anybody
staff
second,
conditions.
Commissioner Boucher, seconds, all in favor?
Who made the motion?
Aye.
Commissioner Fain made the motion, Commissioner Boucher second, all in favor said everybody, yay,
Aye.
okay. Now,
Aye, Captain.
yes, my captain. On to number 5, this is the WP 24-0057, the 250, 290 and 420 Sturgis Highway. This is the existing dam and repair and maintenance. I'm okay with it. I don't have any issue with it, especially with they identified that, no, what is it called? The diversion,
way?
Yeah, the bypass.
the bypass, yeah.
The
I
bypass.
read through the staff comments, staff has addressed, I think, all the additional permits and conditions that would protect us and also make sure that the bypass was included.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good staff report, good outcome. I would, again, I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Anybody second?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
I have one question.
please,
Um,
go ahead.
I was impressed by the note that we got from Westport.
Yeah.
Talking about the other dam that they allowed to not be repaired and the stream went back to its natural state. And that Westport was kind of recommending that we consider that as an alternative.
It was
Was
brought
that
up,
alternative really considered and identified or costed out?
You know, the thing is, Ted, on our application though, we have dwellings that are being impacted. Whereas the other dam that didn't have any dwellings, so I think that definitely impacted my,
The council brought it up because Commissioner Saunders brought it up about just leaving it as removing the dam, and he said, yes, that is the alternative. However, it's impacting the home because it's sinking into the ground, so it's not a prudent and feasible alternative. So he did answer that.
Okay,
Okay?
It's not a
okay,
concept.
that's fine, because I think they're doing the minimal amount of damage, so.
I just don't think that's enough of an analysis, but I mean, from what I know about dams, there's the general, and as Westport recommended, and I think Tim recommended it, I think in the staff report, that it's generally recommended to remove them. But
It was, no, it wasn't recommended to
Oh, it
remove it,
wasn't?
just that it's a conversation to have. It
Okay.
said it should be discussed, which they did, because it is an option.
Also,
and-
is it true that it's been there for over 300 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
wanna.
in the
I don't
stat,
wanna
it says,
surround
however, the dam is,
something
if the dam is not repaired, the pond area will eventually revert to wet meadow if the bulky pond, as the bulky pond is done, which may impact the existing on-site structure. So it's not just the structure that's now being impacted, but the other homeowners.
sure.
But that's the way I read it, and it says,
Yeah, but that's an opinion. There's no causal, there's no study that says that the loss of the dam is causing the sink of the house.
Well, yeah, I agree with Ted on that, and I frankly don't care. It's none of my business. My point of view on keeping the dam, Diane, was it's an historical structure. And I don't wanna lose that. I know that has nothing to do with wetlands. I'm not using that, but I'm just saying,
And the reason,
I would try to defer to that because at 300 years is a long time.
and they're addressing the
When it's
reason
gonna go
why,
back,
the reason to remove the dam would be to provide fish passage, and they're addressing that, so I thought that was.
Right.
and we
Right, no, and-
eliminated the beavers, so we don't have ponds. Typically, like in New England, we would have ponds being
That's
made by
right.
beavers and all sorts of different, and that's all been
That's too bad.
decimated. So this is an ability to create a pond that we as we have.
Well, it's that man created 300 years ago, not necessarily saying that was the best idea at the time. But the other question I have is, at one point they were talking about dredging it to bring it to the right depth.
No.
That part of this
That-
application.
That was something they tried to do in 1986. And I guess at the time, the first selectman was in favor, but the Conservation Commission did not allow them to do it. And they were connecting that years later to say that's the reason why it may have failed. So that's,
So does it no longer need dredging?
They said they would not be dredging,
It's not-
correct?
it's
They-
not- Not a topic.
Might need it, but they're not proposing.
It's
No.
not a topic.
Yeah, cause I had asked if they were, and he said no.
Right,
I-
because anytime you build a dam, you're gonna have silt behind it.
Right, yeah.
So if we have a proposal yet?
There's a motion and you seconded.
Good,
Yeah,
okay.
so all in favor? So that's all around?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all around, very good. The number 6 is the Patterson Club one. I just have to say, even though I don't know if we're really officially on the record, but that guy, he's doing a great job. From the pollinator pathways, from the way he's treating everything there, at least the way he explained it, he doesn't wanna use the city water.
Right.
He was friendly with the neighbor, he's like, yeah, no, it's really, there was no, I didn't get any ill feeling from him. He seemed sincere, and what they wanted to do there was right, there was no
Right.
shortcuts.
He seemed like he was trying to do best practice.
Yeah,
Well, I'm trying to turn them into a model for the other golf courses in town.
Good.
Well, go for it.
And I think he's already there, and
Yeah.
I'll repeat myself, which I do a lot. I don't think you can fake that kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's there,
And
it's
they wanna start
organic,
it.
it's really
Yeah.
in him, you know?
So we're still not gonna vote on it tonight.
I make
The
a
public
motion that
hearing's
we
still open
approve
on
it.
No, we can't.
No.
We close the public hearing.
All I can tell you is that their robot lawnmowers don't work if you take them off site.
Oh, for the thing.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
how would you know that, Ted?
Okay.
Oh, I might have tried it.
You didn't have the battery pack.
All right, so then that'll be done, we can take that up on the 21st, if we will.
That's it.
Okay, so, but that one's gonna be easy when we bring it, and now
Yep.
the last one is number 7. WP 240062 Muddy Puddle, that's the 361 Cross Highway. You hold that one open too? No, I think we closed that one.
That one was closed.
Yeah, that one we closed.
Motioned and
Yeah.
Diane seconded.
That one, you can go, I guess, but I'm happy that he finally saw
Good night, Bill.
the error of his ways, and got good counsel, got good people,
It was a good outcome.
and explained in a way where, even though he did what he did, it may not have been as much damage as we visually saw without actually knowing the parameters. That's the way I saw it. Now, you guys could feel differently, but I think they're doing what they have to do there, and they're getting it back to restoring it the right way.
Yep,
Not
I
necessarily-
agree.
This isn't Norwood, he may have been ill-informed in the beginning, but he got there the right way in the end. That's my opinion.
Not as happy, but I
Yeah.
no, absolutely agree with you, but
Yeah.
It was a very passive aggressive performance for me, and I remember at one point he actually slipped where he said, oh, he agreed to the meadow, the wet meadow, and he said, oh, so I guess my kids won't get a front yard. And to me, I would want a 5-year monitoring, because I don't think there was any intent to ever follow the rules. Ever. And I don't wanna say trust, use that word trust.
Yeah, no.
But I'm not confident in the applicant.
Oh, I could agree with that statement, but his experts are a different story.
Yes, absolutely.
So
He was bent to reason.
Yeah, and I think there was a reason he wasn't here tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I think his, the wife and daughter were in the back.
Yeah.
But I think he was counseled well, he was advised well, his advisors, McManus and everybody, Chris, they stepped up, they did the right thing.
And they did do what I asked.
They
checked the flagging. I
Yeah.
am not quite commit, but that's what they,
But-
and I'm accepting that.
Yeah. Anybody wanna do a motion on that?
That's a mess one though. That's a kettle of fish.
I have a quick question about the site monitoring.
Yeah.
So I think that's, do you feel like that's how it got out of hand last time? Like, how did it get to that point?
It got to that point because I don't need to follow the rules. No one's watching. You can't make me.
But was this?
No,
the
I don't
site
know.
monitor-
alerted us to
Right,
it,
but that's what
so-
so the site monitor, so if we do it again, do we need a different site monitor?
I don't
Do we
think it
need-
needs to be a different one, but we could maybe put in a
Or-
more specific schedule.
That's what I was gonna say, maybe if we did something that was they've gotta
Oh, I
be,
like that. Can we
like-
do what's the normal schedule?
It depends on the phase of the work that we're in, but if you just say once weekly throughout the entire.
Yes,
Something like that.
I'm
I'll
good
go
with
for
that.
once every 12 hours.
Yeah, okay.
That's my limit. Otherwise,
maybe
I'm
if we could
abstaining.
have something where it's not like a runaway train, and that will
Yeah.
if things start to slide, we can.
And I
Well,
don't
that's the
think,
purpose.
I think I'll have.
Right,
I'll
but
have
I
an
think
issue,
that, I think that there was a lot of slippage by the time.
So is that, so Commissioner Mahoney, is that your motion, that it's,
Yeah.
it's approval with a condition that it's a once weekly site monitor?
While they're doing the
Yes.
ground disturbance.
Yes.
I think we
Yes.
send it
Yes,
out.
that's your motion?
That's my
Great
motion, that's
I'll
my
second
motion.
that
Anybody
motion.
second, Commissioner Busse seconds that? All in favor who can vote?
Aye.
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 I'm going to abstain on that.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so everybody yes, except for an abstention from Commissioner Hood.
You're cranky.
No, it's okay. You're doing the people's work. All right.
I do feel very strongly about that one, so.
No,
And I'm not unhappy that it's moving forward.
yeah,
I'm just, I'm just
Well,
very unhappy about
I
it.
like the short leash.
So I'm happy about the fact that we got some movement.
Glad you mentioned that. That was very smart.
Yeah, that's very close.
Yes.
Well, I think,
All right, folks.
right, guardrails.
Thank you. And I apologize, but we're done before
Yeah.
11 o'clock. So.
Yeah.
And we got